Good evening and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for tonight's public hearing. This is a public hearing for the group Marina, Clyde Township, and Allegan County. My name is Ryan Blazik. I'm with EGLE's Environmental Support Division, and I'll be moderating the public hearing tonight. Before we get started, though, I've got some logistical things to go through. This is kind of our agenda for the evening. Going to go through an introduction, which we're doing right now. And then the big thing to keep in mind is that there's actually going to be two parts to the public hearing tonight. We're going to start off with an informational session where the applicant has a chance to present on the proposed project. And then that'll follow up with a question and answer session. So hopefully the presentation shouldn't last more than about 10 minutes, and the question and answer session will try to end at about 6:30. But then after that, we'll move into kind of the second part, which is your opportunity to make an official comment on this project or application for the record. We'll also talk about other ways you can submit an official comment if you don't want to make a statement tonight, where to find other information, and who to contact with further questions. So for those of you who haven't joined us for one of these public hearings, all lines are going to be muted during the public hearing. So you'll be able to hear us, but we can't hear you. We will unmute your line, obviously, for making your statement or asking a question. You can submit your questions at any time, though, using the question box in the Zoom toolbar. And then also we're recording this hearing. So the hearing will be on our YouTube channel in a few days where you can forward it on or rewatch it. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to invite Jason Combs and Kyle Alexander to kick this off and introduce themselves.
Good evening. My name is Jason Combs. I'm the Water Resources Division out of the Kalamazoo District Office, and I will be serving as the hearings officer for tonight.
I'm Kyle Alexander. I'm the district supervisor out of the Kalamazoo office, working with Jason.
All right, thank you both for those introductions. So now we're going to move on to the question or the presentation part of the public hearing tonight. And we're going to have David Keldon, who's in our audience. We're going to unmute David, and he is going to provide this presentation on behalf of the applicant. We'll see if we can find you here.
All right, can you hear us there?
Yeah, are you there with, are you there, David?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here with both David and Ann DeGroot from the DeGroot Family Trust. And so if you can hear me all right, I'll go ahead and get started.
Yep, sounds good. I have your slides here. So we'll go ahead and put your first one up there. When you want a slide change, just let me know and I'll change it for you.
Okay, Kyle and Jason, thanks so much. So as you said, my name is David Keldon. I'm with Varnum LLP, and we're counsel for the applicant, the DeGroot Family Trust. And again, with me today are, on behalf of the applicant, are David and Ann DeGroot. The applicant is the owner of approximately 9 lots that share 40 acres of riparian land fronting on Hutchins Lake, which I may refer to as we talk as the park parcel. And just like all other riparians on the lake, the trust has the right to install docks on its bottomlands to service its property. So in order to figure out how to make best use of those bottomlands, the applicant looked at the park parcel's overall lake frontage, its riparian bottomlands ownership area, as well as the common usage of lake frontage and bottomlands on Hutchins Lake. I'll touch on each of those issues just briefly. But based on that review, the applicant then developed this application, which makes a reasonable use of the bottomlands in a manner that we think is much less impactful than other development on the lake. Starting with this slide, as shown here, we see that the park parcel has approximately 1,100 feet of frontage. You can see that as designated with the red line along the frontage of the lake on this slide. If you'll move to the next slide. Thank you. This is an official bottomland survey that was conducted by the applicant's engineer. As shown here, the applicant owns one of the largest remaining undeveloped parcels on the lake. That parcel enjoys a massive amount of ownership of the bottomlands of the lake. Next, the applicant considered the current condition on the lake and how others have used their riparian owners. Actually, Kyle, if we'll back up one slide for just a second. As you can see on this slide, if you look to the property at the north and the south of the park parcel, it's typical to install a single boat dock to service each home and to dredge as necessary for that boat dock. This is indicated by the number of docks you see to the north and south of the park parcel. All right, if you go to the next slide now, Kyle. Thank you. This aerial photo depicts property located slightly northwest of the park parcel on the opposite side of the lake. This area has recreation drive addresses for reference. And here we see that it's typical for each home to install a rock or a concrete seawall, to fill to that seawall, and to install a dock with 4 to 6 boat slips to service each home. And this condition is really common on the lake. So here we see an example of 9 docks servicing 9 homes in just 475 lineal feet of frontage. And as I said, note that each home has installed a seawall and filled to that seawall and planted grass and landscaping. And of course, that grass and landscaping uses chemicals and fertilizers that have the potential to run into the lake. And each home has roughly an average, again, of 4 boat slips or mooring points, some 4, some more, some less. And so this is the, again, sort of typical condition that we see around the lake. And keeping these conditions in mind, the applicant considered the alternative of installing 9 docks on the park property's 1,100 lineal feet, each with 4 boat slips. And this clearly would have been consistent with the current development on the lake. Instead, if you go to the next slide, the applicant has selected a less impactful alternative of installing just 1 dock on its 1,100 feet. And that dock is carefully situated in an area that was already trafficked by boats, yet also sited to avoid impacts with the existing boat ramp. This both avoids any unnecessary impact to the ecosystem and also avoids impacts with navigation. And so when we compare these 2 alternatives, the alternative of developing consistent with other development on the lake versus the selected alternative, we see the following. Instead of 9 head docks, as would be typical on the lake, the applicant proposes just 1. This represents approximately an 89% decrease in the number of docks from the typical design on the lake. And instead of 36 boat slips, the applicant proposes just 9. This represents a 75% decrease in the total number of boat slips that we see in the typical condition on the lake. And again, unlike most properties that install concrete seawalls and grass, the applicant does not propose to do that. Instead, this application preserves more of the wetland and tree areas on the property. And this, again, eliminates runoff from chemicals. So with that background, I'd like to run through the remaining slides and provide a little bit more detail on the layout. Let's go to the next slide. Great. This slide shows in more detail the seasonal dock. The seasonal dock includes 6 fingers, each of which is 15 feet long by 3 feet wide. And each finger is separated by 14 feet. There would be a total of 9 permanent mooring points, with 2 of those being broadside moorings. All right, let's go to the next slide. This shows in more detail the permanent dock. The construction of the permanent dock is a steel frame with wood decking. 11 8-inch diameter steel pylons support the steel structure, which creates the platform for the wood decking. All right, let's go to the next slide. One more, please. Thank you. This shows the proposed fill area, which is comprised of just 29 cubic yards of clean sand fill. This area is very minimal at 35 feet in length and 15 feet in width, especially when compared to the 1,100 feet of frontage shown previously. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. Thank you. This shows how the permanent dock interfaces with the upland area and the small 29 cubic yards of clean fill that I mentioned. All right, thank you. And slide 18, please.
I think that's the last one I have.
Okay, that's great. That was the one that showed the interface of the clean fill and the graduated slope to the lake and the permanent dock. Thanks so much. All right. So in conclusion, this application is, in my opinion, a thoughtful and appropriate design that is respectful of the environment, the other riparians on the lake, and the rights of the public in the use of the surface waters. It is vastly less impactful than the way that other properties on the lake have been developed and the way this property could be developed. It protects the vast majority of the wetlands and shoreline. Again, all but 35 feet of the overall 1,100 feet of frontage is protected by avoiding the installation of seawall and fill. It prevents runoff associated with use of chemicals to maintain grass and landscaped areas. It uses less of the bottomlands, and it provides for less dock coverage and fewer lineal feet of dockage than would a traditional design with each home having its own dock. It avoids impacts to navigation and enhances and protects the use of the surface water by reducing the number of docks from 9 to 1, an 89% reduction from typical development. And it results in fewer permanent boat moorings by requesting only 9, which is a 75% decrease when compared with typical development, thereby resulting in less boat traffic and a less intensive use of the lake overall. Accordingly, the applicant respectfully looks forward to an approval from EGLE on the application. Thank you.
All right, thanks for providing that information, David. Now we're going to move into the question and answer portion of this. You can submit a question using the question QA box in the bottom of your screen, or you can click the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen. There are quite a few phone people who are on the phone calling in tonight. You can select #2, and what that will do is on your phone, that will raise your hand in Zoom, and then when we call on you, we can unmute you, and you'll be able to unmute yourself on your phone and ask your question. Couple things to keep in mind is we're going to go with this Q&A session until about 6:30. Also, if you have any comments that you want to make for the record, we'll have that a little bit later on. That'll be kind of the next part of this. So this part is strictly for questions on the project or application. So with that, I'll go ahead and kind of go back and forth between the raised hands and the questions that are in the question and answer box that have been submitted. So the first one, I'll read a couple questions that have been typed in, and then we'll go to some raised hands. The question is, where's the sand coming from for the beach? Where does the sand come from?
I am not exactly sure where it's coming from, but it's going to be clean fill sand, like play sand.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to the next one here. Has there been an environmental impact statement?
Ryan, I think I can answer that one. So the answer to that question is no, there has not been an environmental impact statement. Generally speaking, when it comes to environmental impact statements, those are usually something that's required oftentimes for large scale projects or ones where in some way that are done with by like state or potentially federal government kind of projects oftentimes will have environmental impact statements. But in this specific case, there has not been one.
All right, thanks for the question and for that answer, Jason. All right, I'm going to go to some raised hands. We have some hands raised. So we're going to go ahead and I'll call on you, we'll unmute you, and then you can unmute yourself. So Amanda Lemke, we're going to unmute you on our end. And then you'll be able to unmute yourself and then ask your question. So it looks like you're unmuted with us. Are you able to unmute yourself?
I don't unmute.
Okay, we can hear you. You can go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, can you tell me exactly how the dredging is gonna work?
Sure, we can answer that question. There is no dwelling proposed in connection with this application, and so
I asked about
what-
dredging, not dwelling. Is there a difference between dwelling and dredging?
so you're asking about. Let me make sure I understand the question, please. You're asking about the dredging of the lake bottom. Is that correct?
Is that what you're proposing to do, is to dredge up the lake bottom to make room for your dock?
Yes, thank you, Amanda. Good question. The answer is there is no dredging proposed in connection with this application. In fact, one of the things that the applicant has done here that's really thoughtful of the environment is situated the dock and designed it so that dredging is not required. And that's one of the benefits of this application.
All right.
How are you going to have boats in that location of the lake where, to my acknowledgement, you have like a foot of water?
Okay, thank you, Amanda. The answer is the depth there is not 1 foot of water. The depths do fluctuate, but as I noted earlier, this is an area that has in the past been trafficked by boats. And the dock is designed to be located in a
More so by nature, like not we kayaks, yes, not
Hey,
boats. Not-
Amanda, we're gonna have to move on to another question. We have a lot of people who want to ask questions. We'll let David
So you're
answer.
gonna put 4 to 6 boat slips in there, though.
To be clear, the application is for 6 finger piers. There are a total of 9 permanent moorings proposed for the 9 homes that would use this. And again, that's in comparison to the typical home
And you're gonna
where
build
you
the
might have 4
Oh.
boat slips for each home on 9 different docks.
Okay, yeah, thank you for the question, Amanda, and for the answer, David. We're gonna have to keep moving on with questions so everyone has a chance if we can. So Sharon Kelly, we're going to unmute you and you can ask your question.
Hi, my name is Christy Singler. I'm actually Sharon's attorney. My question is the intended use of these piers commercial or personal?
It's personal for the residential lots that are serviced by them.
And these residential lots don't abut the lake, correct?
They all share access to the lake in the same way that, for example, in a condominium project, all of the homes would share the lake frontage and the dock.
Correct, but that means the residents themselves are not abutting the lake. Their access is, but the residents themselves are not abutting the lake, correct?
The property that abuts the lake is the park parcel with the 1,100 feet of frontage that I mentioned, and each of the residents has the right to use that pursuant to recorded rights.
Correct, but again, the houses themselves are not against the lake, correct? I understand the park parcel.
Christy, that is correct. The homes,
you.
these 9 homes themselves use the park parcel to access the lake, correct?
All right, we're gonna have to move on to our next question. Willard McDowell, or actually, I have Joseph Bianco. Joseph, you're
Hello.
unmuted. Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. You can ask your question whenever you're ready.
Have you considered that the proposed marina directly intersects with the ingress and egress path of the boat ramp, and that dredging will be required to reroute traffic because of the shallow water and the unsafe conditions it will create for all who use the ramp, the property owners adjacent to the ramp, and the proposed marina?
Joseph, thanks for that question. There were several questions there, but as to the first question, the way the dock is situated does not interfere with the boat ramp. In fact, it's located not only entirely within the riparian rights of the parcel, but it's set back more than 30 feet from the boundary of this parcel's riparian rights. And part of the reason that was done was to situate the dock in location to the ramp in a manner to ensure that there would be no impact to navigation.
Have you looked at satellite pictures that show propeller scars from the ingress and egress path of the boat ramp that clearly show that the marina will intersect and obstruct that path?
Yes, I thank you for that comment. But I would have to respectfully say that I think you're mistaken by that. We have seen satellite photos. And I was just on the lake yesterday, went all through it with my my Mastercraft boat with a center drive. And we easily went through all sections, going back and forth on both sides of the, I should say, towards the east side of the pylons that are there, the buoys that are there currently. And there's, even in the summertime, when the lake is a little bit lower, you can bring your boats right up there. It would be fine. And there's plenty of room between where this proposed dock is going to be located and the ingress and egress to the boat launch.
I would
Okay,
just
thank
like
you
to
for the-
state for the record that I believe that is a false statement, and I have imagery that I can share with EGLE to prove it otherwise.
We'll have to move on to the next question, but you can make a statement as well during the public hearing portion, which is next. You'll have another opportunity for that. But thank you for asking for the question and for making that statement. So next, Willard McDowell, we're going to unmute you. You have a chance to answer your question. You're unmuted on our end, Willard.
I think I'm unmuted.
Yep, we can hear you.
I had really three quick questions. One, at max, how many boats will be using the dock?
Well, at this point, the pier, the dock is designed for 9 residents to use the dock. So there's 2 broadside mooring locations, along with 6 fingers that allows 7 boats on in that area. So in terms of boating usage, is designed for 9 residents to use it.
So each resident could have 2 boats, 1 boat, something like that, right?
So there's 9 permanent mooring points. And the concept is that each of the 9 lots would be assigned one of the permanent mooring points. I'm not sure if that answers the question, but that's the intent. Yes, there's a total number of boats with permanent moorings of 9.
Okay, it's close. The next question is this the whole project, or is it just phase 1?
There are no other phases at this point.
Thanks for,
It looks
Thanks
like back the original.
we're going to have to move on to someone else, Willard, to give it, and actually want to try to get through some of these questions that are typed in because we have a lot that we need to get through, but thank you for your question.
I got one more, but go ahead.
Right. So I'm going to try to get through some questions in the question and answer box for people who type those in, since we haven't gotten to many of those. How is the property currently zoned?
It is zoned R4.
Okay, zoned R4.
Yep.
Let's see here. Okay, so I think this might be a question for Jason or Kyle. Why wouldn't the requirement to add wetlands to replace what is proposed to be lost?
Okay, if I'm understanding that question correctly, I think they're mostly asking whether or not why wetland mitigation might not be required, or it might not be currently proposed as part of the application. There's a state regulations for wetlands automatically require that if there's more than 1/3 of an acre of wetland impacted, then we absolutely, it's mandatory that there's that mitigation happens. If there's a lesser amount, we can require, the department can require mitigation in certain circumstances. At this point, the applicant has not suggested that or made any proposal, but it's certainly a question that can be discussed as part of as part of this permit application.
All right, thank you for that question and the answer to that. Can the applicant describe how the marina will be lighted?
I have no plans to light the dock.
Thank you. All right. Some questions I think we already addressed about dredging. Is there a limit to how long a dock can be on Hutchins Lake?
Do you want us to respond to that, or would you like to?
Well, we'll put it this way, from EGLE's perspective and from our regulations, we don't really deal with a specific quantity or length. It's more about whether it can, if it has adverse impacts on someone's riparian rights, which I'll get into later on as part of the hearing. And as long as it's not interfering with navigation. So specific things like dock lengths might be more of a local zoning ordinance question.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. I'll just note that, in terms of impacts to navigation and the length of the dock, if you think about the length of this dock in comparison of one dock in comparison to 9 docks of similar length, with for service each of 9 separate homes as could be configured, it's the applicant's view that this is far less impactful to navigation by virtue of the lower number, fewer docks and less lineal feet of frontage of dock coverage as well.
All right, thanks for the question and for those answers. What percentage of the lakefront of their property is considered wetlands as compared to the example that you gave as typical? Is there a big difference in the properties that you compared?
Sure. What's interesting is that when you look at this property, it's one of the largest remaining undeveloped properties on the lake. And there's one other property that you can see that is sort of northwest of this property that is also undeveloped. And both of those properties, interestingly, have wetlands and have trees. And a lot of the other properties on the lake before they were developed had the exact same situation. And so I think to answer your question, there are still 25 acres of remaining wetlands on the park parcel, and 0.04% of the property is used for this project. So one of the nice things about this project is instead of installing fill and filling like you saw on these other properties that we sent pictures up, put pictures up of, this project is designed to preserve not just the wetlands, but the shoreline and the trees, which could not be done and has not typically been done with with other developed property on the lake. And whether those were developed before statutes protecting wetlands or not, I don't know. It's possible, but regardless, we think that that's a really important benefit of this application.
All right, thanks for that question and the answer. Is there going to be fuel at the dock?
No fuel.
Okay. And let's get, I think we have time for, let's see, one more. I'm just trying to look for one that we have multiples of to help answer questions. Will this proposal set precedents for any riparian owner to extend docks deeper into the lake?
From our perspective, the answer is that EGLE reviews each application individually and makes a determination on its merits and taking into consideration how to provide reasonable rights to use the bottomlands associated with each parcel and takes into consideration the rights of other riparians and the public to use the surface water. And so we don't think this sets a precedent, but we do think that this application is respectful of those other riparians and the rights of the public to use the surface water of the lake.
Yeah,
To
I
build on
guess-
Mr. Calvin's statement, that's pretty accurate that we review on an individual case by case basis when it comes to permit applications, applying the state regulations.
Okay, thank you for that, Jason. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get to all the questions tonight and all the raised hands. We have to move on to give everybody an opportunity to make a statement on this project and application. But thank you all for submitting your questions. And thank you, David, Jason, and Kyle for answering those questions. So at this point, we're going to move to kind of the next portion, which is the kind of the actual hearing portion. But before we do that, I just want to identify or mention the other ways to submit an official comment in case you didn't want to make tonight. You can do that via My Waters and provide those comments directly, and those should be in the public notice, the submission information. But I'll read it out loud. Submission number HPC-JEM9-EXPBJ. And then also by mail, and I'm going to read this aloud again because there's people on the phone who may not be seeing the screen. It's EGLE Water Resources Division, Kalamazoo District Office, 7953 Adobe Road, and that's in Kalamazoo, Michigan, 49009. So by mail is also a way you can submit comments. And the comment period will be open after this public hearing for 10 days. And so that day is May 19th. You could submit comments through May 19th. All right, so at this point, I would like to invite Jason to read the opening statement to get the public hearing started, and everyone will have a chance to make their comment.
All right, thanks, Ryan. So as he said, Ryan stated, I'll be reading off an opening statement. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jason Combs, and I am the District Representative in the Water Resources Division of the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, also known as EGLE. I will be serving as the hearing officer for this public hearing on EGLE submission number HPC-JEM9-EXPBJ. With me tonight is Kyle Alexander, the District Supervisor for the Water Resources Division in the Kalamazoo District Office. To describe how this is going to work tonight, I will begin with some background information about why we are here tonight. I will then describe the purpose of the hearing and how your comments will be used. Following that, I will outline the procedures under which we will take your comments and then describe what will happen after tonight's hearing. It will then be time for you to provide comments, and we will spend the majority of the time tonight listening to those comments. At the end of the hearing, I will read the closing statement. By way of background information, the Water Resources Division is responsible for administering a variety of programs that help protect inland lakes and streams, wetlands, floodplains, sand dunes, and the Great Lakes. These programs regulate certain activities such as dredging or filling a lake, stream, or wetland, constructing a dam, constructing a marina, placing shore protection or constructing docks, and building in a designated critical sand dune area, wetland, or floodplain. The law governing those responsibilities is the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act, 1994 PA 451 as amended. We are here tonight because David DeGroot has proposed the following. He has proposed to construct a marina on Hutchins Lake bottomland and wetland by installing a permanent open pile dock extending perpendicular to the shore, a maximum length of 61 feet and is a maximum width of 6 feet, with a finger pier that is a maximum length of 14 feet and a maximum width of 4 feet. Then part of this open pile dock will have a portion over wetland that is a maximum length of 15 feet and is a maximum width of 6 feet. You'll then connect a seasonal open pile dock to that permanent finger pier that is a maximum length of 106 feet and is a maximum width of 4 feet, with 6 seasonal finger piers that are each 15 feet long and 3 feet wide. The proposed marina shall have a total number of 6 boat slips and approximately 60 linear feet of broadside dockage. They'll then place approximately 29 cubic yards of clean offsite sand and wetland in an area that's approximately 35 feet long, 15 feet wide, and 1.5 feet deep. That total wetland impact is approximately 0.01 acre, and at this point, no mitigation is proposed. In order for a permit to be granted, EGLE must find that the proposed activities described in the public notice meet certain criteria set by Part 301, Inland Lakes and Streams, and Part 303, Wetlands Protection of Act 451. In general, we must consider the effect of the proposed project on the lake and wetlands. When reviewing an application for a permit under the provisions of Part 301 of Act 451, EGLE is charged to make the following considerations as required by Section 30106 of Part 301. First is the department shall issue a permit if it finds that the structure or project will not adversely impact the public trust or riparian rights. Now, I'm going to go off the statement a little bit here just to describe what the public trust and what riparian rights are. Those have specific definitions. So for riparian rights, those are specifically right for access to navigable waters, the right to have to moor one's boats, the right to access the water for recreational purposes, such as bathing, etc. And then title for natural creations, which the one sentence version is sand and other things accumulating naturally on your shoreline. Now the public trust is more defined as the public's right to access area for boating and fishing, and for our responsibilities to the state's responsibility to protect the waters of the state from pollution, from unlawful pollution. So that's the first one. The second is the department shall not grant a permit if the proposed project or structure will unlawfully impair or destroy any of the waters or other natural resources of the state. When reviewing an application for permit under the provisions of Part 303, Wetlands Protection of Act 451, EGLE is charged to make the following indications as required by Section 30311 of Part 303. A permit for an activity listed in Section 30304 shall not be approved unless the department determines that the issuance of a permit is in the public interest, that the permit is necessary to realize the benefits derived from the activity, and that the activity is otherwise lawful. A permit shall not be issued unless it is shown that an unacceptable disruption will not result to the aquatic resources. In addition, a permit shall not be issued unless the applicant also shows either of the following. Either A, the proposed activity is primarily dependent upon being located in wetland, or B, a feasible and prudent alternative does not exist. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to give anyone interested in the project application an opportunity to provide information that EGLE can use in making the decision whether or not to issue a permit. Please recognize that EGLE can only use the information you provide if it relates to the criteria that EGLE must use in making a decision. Some of you may simply want to express your support or opposition to the project. We will be happy to make note of your position, but please understand that EGLE is, by law, not allowed to base our decision on whether or not there is widespread support or opposition to the project. In just a moment, I will outline the procedures we will use for taking your comments. But before I do so, I need to mention that the notice of this hearing was published in the Saugatuck Commercial Record on April 28th, 2022. As we discussed at the beginning of the informational session, if you have a comment to provide, raise your hand in the Zoom toolbar. To ensure that the hearing is conducted in a fair manner, we will follow these steps. One, the applicant and/or their consultant has already had an opportunity to describe the proposed project. Second, we will then call on those who have indicated in their registration that they would like to speak. After that, we will call on all those that raise their hand in their Zoom toolbar that they would like to make a comment if they haven't already been called upon. As a reminder, if you are participating in this hearing via telephone only, follow the directions of the moderator on how to identify that you would like to make a comment. You may also submit your comments to EGLE via Bywaters, email, or US mail. When all the comments have been completed, we will ask if anyone else would like to make a statement. When your name is called, your microphone will be unmuted. As you begin your comments, please state your name and any group or association you may represent. Each person will be given 3 minutes to make their comments. We will indicate to you when you have a minute left. Please begin wrapping up your comments and end within the allotted time. If need be, we will indicate when your time has ended. I ask that we all be courteous and respectful to one another tonight. Please also recognize that EGLE staff is here tonight to provide a fair opportunity for you to express your comments on the proposed project and to listen to those comments. This hearing is being recorded and your comments will be a part of the information EGLE will consider in making its decision on whether or not to issue a permit on the proposed project. The public comment period for this public hearing is open for 10 days from the date of this hearing, ending on May 19th, 2022. Additional information and comments submitted in writing during the 10-day public comment period will also be considered in the EGLE's decision. Following the close of the public comment period, EGLE will make a decision to either issue a permit for the project as proposed or with modifications, or send a letter of denial. You may find out what the decision is by checking the EGLE My Waters website and searching for the application number HPC-JEM9-EXPBJ. Thank you for your attention. We will begin calling the names of those who have indicated that they would like to make a statement.
Thanks, Jason, for reading that hearing statement off. Yeah, to kind of to summarize and kind of reiterate the process here, I have a list of people who indicated during registration that they wanted to make a comment of 30 people. I'm going to start with the first one, and then I'll identify who's up next on deck, just so that you can kind of prepare yourself and know that you're up next. And then we'll just go one after the other. After we get through the whole list, then anyone who hasn't given a comment can raise your hand in Zoom, and we'll call on you in turn. And as Jason said, it's going to be 3 minutes per comment. We'll give a 1 minute heads up when you're getting close. And it's 1 comment per person. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and read off the first person and then who's up next. And so Cameron Jordan is up first. We'll unmute you, Cameron. And then Linda and Frank Mazzoni are going to be next after Cameron. So Cam, we're going to, looks like you're unmuted. All right, you can go ahead and start when you're ready.
Yep, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, so Cameron Jordan, I'm representing the Allegan Conservation District. And after hearing the presentation, I guess I would applaud the applicant for proposing a common dock on the park as opposed to individual docks. So we do like that idea. But what I do, and the length of the dock seems reasonable, but what I really question is the length of the finger piers. They're proposed at 15 feet. And after spending 40 years around lakes, I highly doubt that these owners, that this is their access to the lake, are going to be satisfied with a 15-foot long dock, which I believe is consistent with the Marina rules that EGLE implements. So I really question that. I think the applicant should reconsider. People are going to want longer docks, and to accommodate those and not interfere with the boat launch, I would strongly encourage they relocate the end of this dock to the west. It seems like you could pivot that and assume you're going to have longer boats, because you will, and you could also position it so it won't impact the boat launch. Second question is concerning the beach. I understand they have 1,000 or 1,100 feet of frontage. That's a lot. And they want a small, relatively small beach. Okay. But I question where they're going to put the beach. I've not seen the property, but you can't just dump some sand in a wetland, particularly if it's a really, an emergent wetland, what have you, and expect it to, function as a viable beach. It has to be designed properly, use filter fabric. I didn't see that in the plan, etc. So I just think there needs to be more thought and design in the beach. Maybe this isn't the best location for the beach. I don't know. So those are the 2 comments that the Conservation District wants to make.
All right, thanks for the comments, Cameron. All right, so next up is Linda and Frank Mazzone or Mazzoni, and then Richard Conrad is after Linda and Frank. So it looks like Frank, we have you unmuted.
Yes, actually, it's Linda.
It's Linda, okay.
Mhm. I just wanted to go on record as saying that I'm opposed to the marina. We bought a home here for the uncrowded, the quaint area. It's not a big lake. We want to leave it, you know, with the nature and everything as it's been for our kids and hopefully their kids. This seems very commercial to me. I feel like they're funneling to make a bigger profit at the expense of our lake, our wildlife, and our residents that are there currently. I feel like it is more just, you know, for the business aspect and making more money. So I am not for this proposal.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Linda. All right, so Richard Conrad is next, and then Karen Barnes.
Hi, yes, this is Dick Conrad, and my wife Diana is with me here. We've lived on the lake for approximately 6 years, and I do appreciate the opportunity tonight to address the EGLE team on this proposed, and I'd like to underline the word private marina. So the question at hand I'd like to address is, does this marina, this private marina, meet the true public interest? And I believe the short answer is no, for the following reasons. First of all, there is no public or private need for this project. This project is simply a money-making venture for the applicant, Mr. DeGroot. There is no evidence, in fact, that would suggest that there would be a public benefit for this proposed project. I believe to the contrary. This project poses several negative impacts regarding the public's interest. Let me just run through a few of these. The project will negatively affect the public's right to navigate and fish on Hutchins Lake. The proposed dock, which extends 60 feet permanent plus 106 feet of seasonal dock, is 166 feet into the lake. This dwarfs, I want to underline, dwarfs any other dock on the lake. This project's sheer size and proximity to the existing public boat launch will adversely affect the public's right to navigate. It will also restrict the public's right to fish the lake by impairing the anglers' access to the launch, the navigable water, when approaching from the northeast. I just heard tonight that the dock will not have lights. I personally fish on this lake quite a bit. If you come in after dark, I believe this will pose a great safety threat as it extends well into the dock farther, or lake farther than any other dock on the lake. Third, I think it will negatively impact the riparians' rights. We've talked a little bit about that, but especially those on Elm Street, which is adjacent to this, this proposed dock. This area is highly trafficked already, and it's this increased both traffic and density there, the safety concerns. And I can tell you that if you've ever launched a boat there, and with all due respect to the gentleman that talked.
You have 1 minute left, Dick.
Okay, you did so probably without a strong easterly wind. With an easterly wind, you will blow, I guarantee, into those boats. Let me just skip to probably one of the most important points, and that is the impact it's going to have on the fish and wildlife. The last time I checked, they don't have a voice, and we must speak for them. This proposed area is a prime habitat for the spawning grounds of many different species of fish and amphibians. And I believe the installation, and there will be dredging, I guarantee it, because that water is very shallow. There will be dredged. The increased vibration, wake, possible pollution is going to have a negative impact on our fish and amphibious creatures in this lake. And I think it's imperative on Eagles Park to vote no for the wildlife.
All right, thank you for your comment. All right, so Karen Barnes is next, and then I have a David DeGroot. So Karen, you're unmuted. You can go ahead and unmute yourself and then give your comment. I should say you're unmuted on our end. You should see a little microphone icon on the bottom of your screen to unmute yourself. Okay, sounds like we might be having some issues, or Karen might be having issues with, oh, there you are, Karen. Looks like you're unmuted. Can you hear us? All right. Karen? All right, I think we're going to have to go on to our next person, and then we can come back to Karen to see if she was able to get her microphone issue fixed. All right, so David DeGroot, did you have a comment you wanted to make, or did you just have your name on there for the presentation?
No, I had my name on there for the presentation. I think we addressed everything that needed to be addressed. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So I've got Lauren Barnes, and then after Lauren, we'll try to come back to Karen and see if we're able to get Karen Barnes's microphone to work. So Lauren, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Hi, thank you. Lauren Barnes, a longtime resident of Fenville, lifetime, 30 years on Hutchins Lake, and currently live 3 houses from the boat launch. I'm going to talk a little bit about safety. I was an Allegan County Marine officer enforcing Marine Act 303 for 8 years, which is currently Act 451, Michigan Comp Law 324, 80104 that gave us the rights. So under safety, what I want to speak about is 4 bullet points. Impedance of navigable waterways and safety, which is 324-801145 for 2020. Anchor a vessel, travel position of river or channel, moor or attach a vessel to a buoy. These are things you cannot do. Move, displace, tamper with, or damage, destroy navigable aids, which are buoys. Obstruct a pier, wharf, boat ramp, or accessibility to a facility. The group presentation did not show the buoys in their slides, nor did it show the road right of way, just the center line of the road, which is very deceiving. Also, the 185-foot dock will impede watercraft traffic west of 59th Street boat launch. There has been prints provided to EGLE under our comments under Lauren Barnes' inventory that shows this. Bullet point number 2, boat launch and 59th Street safety. Michigan Law 324-801145, 2020. Boat launch is located at the end of 59th Street with parking on the west side of the street. Proposed wetland removal allowing housings and driveways will impede traffic to the launch, cause blind spots to driveways, increase chance of pedestrians to vehicle impacts, especially young children traversing on 59th Street. Proposed marina will also have the effect of the ability, will also have a negative effect of the ability for safe loading and unloading watercraft by obstructing areas surrounding the boat launch. Boat launch traffic in the summer is very heavy. In living 3 houses from the boat launch, my family has witnessed damage to boats from hitting others, people being accidentally dropped into the water from loading and unloading activities, altercations between boaters, fishermen, and traffic at the boat launch, and watercraft malfunctions, leaving them stranded with little options to move from high traffic areas. Pictures of buoys.
And you have 1 minute left, Lauren.
Okay, I'm going to run down then. Buoy safety. Just a couple things on the buoys. You need 100 feet around. It's slow, no wake. So buoys cannot lawfully be moved. And again, they are permitted buoys. By doing this, we're going to affect the lake sediment, aquatic life, marine engine performance, or damage to cooling system. Personal watercraft recommends 24 inches of water to operate, and it will limit sailing vessels with any depth from keel to utilizing the lake. Increased traffic on the lake, as has been talked about before, will increase. Closing, as I'm running through this, having the marina extended to the boat launch will impact the safe passage of boaters entering and leaving the boat ramp. This adds to higher risk of accidents and the possibility of individuals wading in the water to be in harm's way. As a current boater and a former Marine officer, I can attest to the traffic at Hutchins Lake.
You're at 3 minutes, Lauren. Please wrap up your comments.
Okay. Just because I can't go to closing, I did have 2 questions, just real quick. Who validated the drawings that showed the riparian rights? One firm should not have the right to show that. And then the buoy placement was not shown there, and I need EGLE, if I would like EGLE to look at that permit and see the impedance of that to their docks, please. And then, sir,
That's we're gonna have to move on, Lauren.
Hey, Ryan,
So if you have additional comments, then you can provide those in writing, or you can provide them via my waters, and then I also provide Jason's contact information at the end here where you can ask additional questions, but we're going to have to move on. So with that, we're going to go back to Karen Barnes and then see if Karen's microphone works. And then we'll move on to Tom DeVoe. So Karen, looks like you're unmuted on our end. Are you able to unmute your microphone?
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, we can hear you. You can go ahead and make your statement when
Can
you're
you
ready.
hear me now?
Yeah, we can
Okay, hold
hear
on,
you.
here she is. You have to put it on your head. Okay.
Are you there, Karen? Karen? Are you there, Karen? Karen, it sounds like you're having some technical difficulties.
There.
Yep, can you go ahead and make your statement?
Hello,
Yep, can you make your
I
statement?
am.
Karen?
Are you?
Yep, you can go ahead and get started.
Are you there?
All right, Karen, I think we're gonna have to move on.
Yes, I am. Are you? Oh, come on. Are you there?
So Karen, if you can hear us, you can make your you can make your statement or provide information via My Waters or by mail. Sounds like you're having some technical issues, so we're gonna have to move on. So Tom DeVoe is gonna be next, and then Doreen Battassini. So Tom, looks like you're unmuted on our end. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, thanks Ryan and Jason for this opportunity to speak. I'm joined by my wife, Susan. She's a fifth generation resident in the Hutchins Lake area. And I really just wanted to share two concerns that I had. The first one on the project itself, yeah, there really is nothing else like this on the lake today. And the comment was made about a commercial appearance, and that's exactly what I was thinking as well. So I'm concerned that it's really going to change the entire look of the lake and the community by putting something like this out there in the middle of the lake. My second point that I want to bring up, and although there's no need for, well, it has to do with precedence. I think this is going to absolutely set a precedent, and other people are going to mimic the same type of activities by putting in longer docks. And that would be a real shame to the lake, as it's not all that large. So those are the few things I wanted to share. And I, of course, echo a lot of other comments that were made already as well. And we're also opposed to the project. Thank you.
All right, thanks for those comments, Tom. All right, so next is Doreen Battassini, and then after that, John Gibbons. So it looks like Doreen and Bob, you are unmuted on our end. You can unmute yourself and start your comments when you're ready.
We did not sign up to speak, but Bruce Grams is here on our computer, and he did sign up. So can you go to him?
If he's on your line, yeah, you can, he's on my list, so yeah, he can go.
Okay. Okay, for the record, my name is Bruce Grams, and my wife and I have been permanent residents on Hutchins Lake for the last 64 years, and I have fished the lake for 73 years. Back in the early 60s, the DNR needed an association to represent the Hutchins Lake property owners. So 5 of us formed the Hutchins Lake Improvement Association. The DNR came out and seined the lake and determined there was 4 and 5 inch panfish that should have weighed at least a pound apiece, but didn't. So in the early 60s, we started this pike spawning marsh where the wetlands are in the proposed Marina development area. At that time, the lake was overrun with these undersized panfish, and we had 2 choices: either poison the lake or plant pike. We planted pike, and the pike gradually took care of the problem. The lake needs a spawning pike to keep the panfish in check, so the lake will continue to be a good fishing lake. I believe that in the spring, when the water table is high and the water temperature reaches 37 degrees, the pike will return to the old marsh to spawn, and the different types of birds will return to nest there. Putting a marina there would destroy all this, and once destroyed, it will be destroyed forever. once allowed to put in all that fill that is proposed in the wetlands, my thinking is that it will push the water out and dry up the spawning area forever. Wetlands are a virtual part of Hutchins Lake and definitely contribute to the ecology of our lake. These wetlands must be preserved and protected. In closing, I might add that right now, as I speak, there was one swan and possibly two that are nesting in this wetland area. Respectfully, Bruce and Judy Grahams.
Thanks for your comment, Bruce. It actually looks like there's two people who are logged in as Bob and Doreen Bestini. Is there anyone else there that wants to make a comment? Or
No, that's it.
all right. Yeah, thanks for the comment. All right, so John Gibbons will be next, followed by Marshall Klein.
Thank you for the record.
Yep, go ahead, start.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate the presentation by Mr. DeGroot and his lawyers. I'm awful glad we have 10 days to digest that. The word typical was used a number of times. I think many of us on the phone who have lived on the lake for many, many years and decades don't find anything about this project to be typical, including 11 steel pilings into the lake bottom. So we'll have to respond in the 10 days given to us as a group. As EGLE knows, I've come to be the point person on a group that now numbers over 50 families who are on an email thread, all objecting to this project and somehow been elected the spokesperson. We have a lawyer, Larry Opalewski, who has tendered a letter to EGLE and will speak given time tonight. I kind of believe, using my time, it's critical to remember how we got here. And I think it's relevant to how EGLE digests and analyzes this current permit. EGLE, as it knows, previously approved a permit that allowed a driveway to be built to connect what is now 9 to 10 homes, a housing development, to the lake and marina. To do that, it allowed the destruction of 3,400 square feet of wetlands that will be impacted forever if that driveway gets built. Then there's proposed boardwalks over the wetland so that these people who are buying these off the lake houses can get to this sandy beach and can get to this dock. EGLE can just imagine the foot traffic that will be taking place to access these boats that Mr. DeGroot would like to see built on a marina in what we all think is a terrible place to be building a marina. EGLE has gotten numerous letters, and I'm not going to go through them. I just highlight and ask you to consider a letter you received from Progressive AA, particularly Paul Hausler and Tony Graves. They are expert biologists. Yep, expert biologists who have worked on Hutchins Lake for decades before this issue. They starkly laid out in detail the negative effects that this proposed marina would have on the lake, on the lakefront, on the fish, and the wildlife. Please listen to them and deny this permit. Hutchins Lake Improvement Association has filed a letter speaking to the safety issues. Joe Bianco is absolutely right about the safety issues that are there. And you're going to hear from other people about how much safety and boating concerns we all have, the funneling concern. And we all know, come on, let's be frank about this. There's a feasible and reasonable, prudent alternative here. All these homes on 58th and 59th Street leave their homes right now, drive down to the public boatway and put their boats in. And that's going to be equally available to these people who buy into this commercial development of Mr. DeGroot's. There's no public interest in this marina, zero. And I echo everyone's comments. I appreciate the 3 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comments, John. All right, so next up is Marcia Klein, followed by Amanda Lemke.
Hey, Ryan, this is Jim. We don't have a Marcia Klein in attendance tonight.
Okay, got you. Thanks, Jim. All right, Amanda Lemke, and then after Amanda is Scott Clark. So Amanda, you're unmuted on our end. You can feel free to unmute yourself and begin when you're ready.
Hello.
Oh, we can hear you. You can begin when you're ready.
Perfect. I mean, we're all basically stating all the same facts. do you have any answers for any of this? Is anything going to get solved within this, or are we just expressing our feelings? What's happening right now?
This is where you have an opportunity to make a comment. So the
Okay,
question,
can you explain to me how exactly it's going to be dredged out and how this beach is going to be made?
Amanda, if you if you want, at the end of this hearing, we'll get contact information for Jason and myself, and we can
So I
chat
can't
about this
I can't
later.
ask questions right now. I'm just expressing feelings.
That's right. This is just an opportunity to give a comment, and then we'd be happy to follow up with you with questions later on.
Okay, I just want to then say that I support so many people. Lauren Barton saying like how, I mean, I was raised on this lake, and when I was little, I couldn't be 100 feet away from a boat. And now we're going to put a whole marina right next to the boat launch. That's not 100 feet. You guys are talking about 35 feet, right? And how Bruce is talking about the pike. Do you guys understand what northern pike are? They spawn in the northern side of the lake. What's going to happen to them? What's going to happen to our swans? What's going to happen to our hot springs and our cold springs that keep this lake clean and peaceful? Can we talk about this?
Amanda, this is an opportunity to make your statements
and
known.
again, where's those buoys gonna go? Because again, like Lauren Barnes says, the buoys are specifically placed in this lake to help navigate our flow of boaters. What's
And
gonna
you have 1 minute left for your comments too.
That's cool. Yeah, I like to hear that. So what's gonna happen with those buoys? And I always thought ultimately that you cannot build on wetlands. Ultimately, you cannot build on wetlands. So who's going to stand up for this? That we cannot build on wetlands? Anybody out there? Nope. And that's what is really sad about the situation, is nobody's out there to stand up for Hutchins Lake. So Mr. DeGroat can just do what he wants, correct?
Your time is about up, Amanda. Do you have any, can you wrap up?
I'm wrapped up. Thank
All
you.
right. Yep, thank you for making your comment. All right, so next up is Scott Clark, followed by Missy Fochtik. So Scott, you can go ahead and start when you're ready.
Ryan, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Scott Clark. I've had a home here on Hutchins Lake for 16 years. I am a board member of the Hutchins Lake Improvement Association. And I wanted to tell you about a fellow member and a friend and a neighbor, Kay Zuris, who brought this to my attention. It was a report from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources and Environment Status of the Fishery Resource Report. It was done, I believe, in 2007 by Craig Smith, the fisheries biologist for the Department of Natural Resources. And in the management direction, he stated that the nearshore area along the north side of the lake is undeveloped. This is the area that we're talking about, and provides good habitat for aquatic insects, fish, and waterfowl. Protection of these areas from aquatic weed treatment, aquatic weed harvesting, and dredging and filling are critical to the survival of aquatic organisms that use these habitats. That's his statement as to the viability of the wetlands area and how important it is. Not to mention what Lauren was so eloquently speaking about, the dangers to the human residents of this lake, of Hutchins Lake, with the protrusion of this dock, which is basically 166 feet. The other comment I want to make, and it's basically more of a question, because it appears to me that the project proposal is basically taking these 9 or 11 docks and extending them out instead of putting them along the lakeside. Most of these, in fact,
A minute left, Scott.
the one graph that was shown showed lakeside fronts that had 100 feet of lakeside. And so they got a dock. Now, if you put those docks side by side in those wetlands, you're talking about a protrusion into the wetlands far greater than what you're talking about with this basically funneling of docks into one. So I just believe for the aquatic waterfowl, the insects, the human beings involved here, that this is not a viable project and not in the public trust of the good people of Hutchins Lake. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comment, Scott. All right, next up is Missy Fojtik, followed by Sean Goodwin.
Ooh, Mom. Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
I'm just kind of listening in, and the one question I think that keeps coming up that I really haven't heard a good explanation on was how the intended path of the boat traffic is going to get around to either side of the dock, because I'm assuming that they're not going to be parking just on the side that's facing the nearest public boat launch. They're going to have to go around to get there. And I've walked through that property, walked from my house on Eagle Point, around that area several times throughout the years with my kids. And it's very, very shallow. I mean, it's probably 2 feet deep, I'd say. And I know there's some dredging that's going to happen, but I just don't understand, if it's windy and you have a pontoon boat coming in, or, I mean, even a smaller speedboat, if you catch a wind, where are you going to drift? And how you're going to access either side of that dock. I haven't seen a good traffic path for that. So I know this is still just public comment, but I would like to say, it would behoove Eagle to take a look at it and see how the boats are going to access it, and perhaps do an environmental study to see what the impact is. So that's all I have to say.
All right, thanks for your comment, Missy. And again, if you have follow-up questions, what we'll do is I'm going to provide contact information for Jason at the end. So next up is Sean Goodwin, followed by James Hogan. So Sean, it looks like you're unmuted on our end. You can begin when you're ready.
I think that the previous caller was going to touch base on some of what I was going to, as well as to have EGLE consider the greater impact to the environment beyond the dock itself. So the boat traffic in and out of that boat is going to have affect a much greater area than the dock itself. So that traffic is going to disrupt the wetlands. It's going to disrupt spawning. It's going to disrupt everything that's already been talked about. And so just that in itself, it is definitely covering a much larger area than what the proposal says it will affect. And beyond that too is this potential pollution with people using the dock that affects the area and the water and the wetlands and the environment. I again want to express my concern for navigation into the boat launch, that it will affect it depending on the winds and the day and how busy it is out there. It's going to have a dramatic effect on the ability to navigate the waterway in and out of the boat launch. Increased traffic in that area, as well as increased traffic on the lake, was going to have a dramatic effect on the ecosystem of Hutchins Lake as well. I think EGLE needs to take that into consideration with their decision, and that affects the safety of the lake too. Increased traffic, potential for boating accidents to occur, and then accidents coming in and out of the boat launch, as people will be forced to into a more congested area because they can't access and navigate that area very well.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for your comment, Sean. All right, so next up is James Hogan, followed by Julie Fisher Jacobus. All right, James.
Hey, Ryan, I don't have a James Hogan or
Okay.
a Julie Fisher in attendance.
Okay. All right, so then we will move on to Alyssa Pennell, and then after that, Kyle Pennell or Pennell.
And I do not see either of them in attendance either.
Okay. How about Judy Gerard, followed by Paul Hausler?
Yes, I got Judy.
Okay. Thank you. Judy, it looks like you're unmuted on our end. You can unmute yourself and then make your comment. There should be a microphone icon that you'll see in your Zoom toolbar where you'll be able to unmute your microphone and begin with your statement. Are you there, Judy? All right, if you can hear us, Judy, you can also make a statement by mail or via My Waters, or we'll provide contact information at the end if you're not able to unmute your microphone. All right, so how about Paul Hausler, followed by Russell Kuiper?
No Paul.
Okay.
I'm looking for Russell. Okay.
And then after that, it will be Mary Jo and Bill Porter. It looks like Russell is unmuted on our end. Are you able to unmute yourself, Russell?
I'm unmuted.
Okay, perfect. You can begin when you're ready.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for hosting tonight. And just, I guess, make a couple comments about how difficult stuff like this is. I know when I first heard of that land being developed or purchased, again, family has a cottage in Hutchins Lake for 40, 50 years. And we were concerned about what exactly was going to go in there. And there was, comments being made about condominiums and multi-unit stuff and whatever. So I guess I'm just grateful that it's 9 1-acre lots being developed pretty responsibly, if I can make that comment. In regards to the dock, I mean, I think if we push hard to shoot something like this down, there's going to be more and more people eyeing this obviously valuable property that are going to want to increase the amount of units, increase the amount of boats. I mean, shoot the family trust down, and there might be a developer in here trying to put 9 or 10 docks going straight out, and that would significantly increase the potential risk or harm, or whatever the other arguments are. So I guess difficult to say in favor overall, but definitely in favor that it's been responsibly researched and developed, or potential to be developed. And so yeah, I guess that finishes my comment. Thanks, guys.
And thanks for your comment, Russell. All right, so next up is Mary Jo and Bill Porter, followed by Scott Wennerstrom. So it looks like Mary Jo and Bill, looks like you're unmuted on our end. You can unmute yourself and then begin your comment. And again, you should see a mute or unmute button on the lower left-hand part of your Zoom toolbar. Oh, looks like you're unmuted.
Okay, you can hear us?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right. I'm Bill and my wife, Mary Jo Porter. We're here and we've been longtime residents of the lake. Most of what I was concerned about had been covered, but I can remember several years on this lake where the water level was so low at the end of the year that people were having trouble getting their boats out. And I'm really concerned because I've always been told that the streams that feed the lake are in this wetlands area, and very, very concerned about that. In addition, these boats, and we talked about the boat docks and so if that brings 8 or 9 extra boats on the lake, the pollution, the traffic is so much different than was several years ago, but you know, times have changed and I understand that, but nobody said anything about jet skis and everything in addition to the boats that would be docked there. So I think the water level should be a concern because, you know, in recent years that they've been fine, but I can remember 5-6 years since 2001 that the water levels were very low. And now we're talking about dumping sand into the lake. I don't really see any purpose or how that could not affect the ecology of the lake. I agree about the fish spawning, and Bruce was very eloquent in how he explained that. And the guy's always on the lake, so I'd have to take his word for it. But the other things are the geese always keep that area of the lake open in the wintertime. They gather over there, the swans, and I cannot see how this doesn't disrupt the ecology of the lake. And the only other comment I have to make is the DeGroote's Council so eloquently explained, you know, the effect and pointed out piers.
1 minute, Bill.
Okay, piers on the other side of the lake and whatnot. And DeGroote's own one of those piers on the other side of the lake, just as we do. And we all paid for this property. Okay, paid our taxes and everything else. They have that right, but we really didn't change anything. Now you're talking about 8 or 9 homes that aren't going to have lakefront property, but they're going to be allowed to have a pier in the lake that's going to disrupt the flow of boat traffic and everything else. I don't think that's proper, and I urge you to vote no on this request.
All right, thank you for your comment, Bill.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Scott Wennerstrom, followed by Alan Kotz. All right, Scott, you can start when you're ready. Are you there, Scott? Your microphone is on, but we can't hear you. Oh, now it's off.
Are you able to hear me now?
Oh, yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you for the opportunity. First of all, I'm speaking for myself and my wife, Lisa Wennerstrom. Thank you for the opportunity to state our concerns. In the Marina application, the question is asked, has a professional wetlands delineation been completed for this site? The answer is yes, with the following attachments: preliminary wetlands report by Peterson Environmental, wetlands map, aerial with actual wetlands boundary, all dated 10/18/21. All these attachments note that the wetlands cover the entire shore area of this property. The aerial with actual wetlands boundary shows what is essentially an island internal to the wetlands, with elevated wooden boardwalks leading from uplands to it and from this island to the lake wetlands. These boardwalks have been recently permitted without full understanding of their intents and purposes. It is now clear that it is to funnel people from uplands development through the wetlands to a marina. There is no plan on this or previous applications on how to get from the end of the boardwalk to where the marina is, even though per the submitted documents, this will be through wetlands. If you add all the boardwalks and pass through the wetlands, including getting from the boardwalk to the proposed marina, this is over the cumulative length of 500 feet, which even the Peterson report notes are the limit. To get around this fact, the applicant has been submitting in piecemeal form, hiding the entire scope of the project until the last minute. As you can see from the response today and over the weeks, once the true scope of these plans is coming to light, hundreds of concerned and educated citizens are motivated to protect the environment and the legal rights of the public and the riparians. If EGLE was truly informed to the scope of this project and its impact, why would it issue a permit which will end up allowing people, pets, carts, etc. to trample through 500 feet of wetlands when there is a road available directly in front of these houses to access the public boat area?
Yeah, one minute left, Scott.
There are also many houses essentially across the street from the proposed development that access the lake in this manner. The permit application states that the total acres of the wetland affected by this project is 0.013 acres. Again, this is very misleading. There's over 25 acres of wetlands here, and the traffic from uplands goes through this. These wetlands are not important just to themselves, but they are critical to the contiguous Hutchins Lake. Considering this is very large affected area, we strongly believe that a true environmental impact study would be required for this type of project. The Peterson Environmental Preliminary Wetlands Determination doesn't report even mention any effect on the wetlands or lake ecosystem as a result of the proposed marina. Studies do exist, however, that support the need to keep this specific wetlands area free from external influences.
And you're at 3 minutes. Please wrap up your comments.
Including the fisheries report. Yes, please deny this application, and if possible, revisit previous issued permits as they clearly are part of one project. And by the way, I got a text message from Lauren Barnes that Karen Barnes moved over to his house to access his computer. Could she please be able to state her comments by recontacting Lauren Barnes' computer?
By calling on Lauren Barnes again?
Then Karen will be there, yes.
Okay, we can do that if, but we'll have to wait until the end. She can raise Lauren's hand and we'll call on Lauren again.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. All right. So next up is Alan Kotz. And then after Alan is Christy Singler. So Alan, it looks like you're unmuted. You can begin when you're ready.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. My name's Al Kautz, and I'm Vice President of the Hutchins Lake Improvement Association, HLIA, of which there are over 150 members. And to my knowledge, I have not heard a single negative comment from any of our members to this point. On March 5th, we held an extraordinary meeting of the HLI board, and all of the members present voted against this proposal. My wife and I have lived on Hutchins Lake for over 20 years and enjoy its pristine Michigan lake for boating, fishing, and swimming, as well as varied wildlife. This Michigan gem remains in its pristine state because of stringent zoning and environmental rules and ordinances. This proposed marina violates 6 important state and county zoning and environmental rules and ordinances. The first of which Scott Clark already mentioned, the Michigan Department of Natural Resources and Environment status of the Fishery Resources Report for 2007 Hutchins Lake. Number 2 would be the EGLE website, Part 303, Wetland Protection Rules, which require an updated Wetlands Impact Report. Number 3, Clyde Township Wetland Ordinance, Section 72.011, states that a wetland permit is required. Number 4, Clyde Township Ordinance 12A, regulating the, and I quote, removal of topsoil, subsoil, sand, gravel, and other materials in the moving and filling of land. Exactly what this proposal proposes to do. Number 5, Clyde Township Zoning Ordinance 8-1R4, Lake Residential District, which specifically lists anti-funneling regulations, of which this is the poster boy of thereof. And number 6, Southwest Michigan Planning Commission, September 2009, Clyde Township Priorities, Water Body.
1 minute left, Ellen, just so you know.
I'm sorry?
Oh, you just have 1 minute left.
Okay, which also specify anti-funneling provisions for the lake. In conclusion, I've emphasized that this is strictly a commercial development that will provide no benefit to anyone except the developer. Now, real quickly, I'd like to add 2 points. One is we launched our pontoon boat this morning in the wind, and it would have blown over because of the east blowing wind directly into DeGroot's dock. And number 2, the aerial views that his attorney showed houses that were put in before the ordinance changed regarding the linear feet of shoreland and seawalls for a dock. At that time, it was only 50 feet. Subsequent to that, it has been changed to 100 feet. So yes, none of those would be legal now, but they were back then, and you can't do this now. And according to
you're at 3 minutes,
environmental
Alan.
report I heard, there's only 50 feet of actual usable space on this wetland area that DeGroot has. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for your comments. All right, next up is Christy Singler, followed by Nathan Hamstra.
Ryan, we do not have a Christy Singler in attendance tonight,
Okay.
but Nathan is here, so.
Okay, thanks, Nathan. Looks like you're unmuted on our end. And then after Nathan, it'll be Dean Capenga. So Nathan, you can go ahead when you're ready.
All right. My name is Nathan Hamstra. I own a place on Sunset Drive on Hutchins Lake. Though I bought that only about 4 years ago, I've been coming up to Hutchins Lake for over 40 years now. Counsel for the DeGroot family made what I thought was a curious admission during the presentation earlier. He stated something like that the dock was being placed in a location that already saw a lot of boat traffic. And I think that is unfortunately true. This dock is being placed right in the path of existing traffic entering and exiting the boat launch. I therefore echo the earlier comments of Mr. Bianco and Mr. Barnes, and I will be sure to submit some satellite photo analysis that I'm sure will mirror what and echo what Mr. Bianco was saying. The other fact that I'd like to echo Mr. Couts, the winds are largely to the east and strong this close to the big lake. So with the proliferation of pontoon boats that catch a lot of wind and all these inboard wake boats that just don't navigate well at low speeds, I really think this is a recipe for disaster. It sounds like the Allegan County Conservation District is on the same page, although I don't actually believe that there is room to move the dock to the west and keep enough and find deep enough water for the boats. I also want to expand on Mr. Barnes's comments on the buoys. It may not be clear to all those here what he was talking about, but there are these no wake buoys that kind of mark a path to the boat launch. And they are not shown on any of the DeGroot plans or maps. I would be very curious where those would be located relative to the dock. I think it will show that the dock is in fact right in the prevailing path to and from the boat launch, which does create some serious safety concerns. Finally, I'd like to respond to a couple comments from Mr. DeGroot's counsel.
1 minute left, Nathan, just
Okay,
so you know where you're at.
There are references to 9 mooring points. I don't think that's actually a permitted limit or an actual formal restriction. I really don't think there's anything stopping this at 9. People can drop additional boat lifts, tie boats to buoys, etc. And then the last point, Mr. DeGroot's counsel suggested that they could put 9 docks on the park parcel. They aren't doing this out of the goodness of their heart. Rather, all that land is basically unusable. It's all wetlands. It can't be built on absent a huge fill project. In addition, the water is too shallow to be navigable. Really, this entire parcel is in fact unbuildable. There's not enough space there. And I think this effort is just trying to make a parcel that is unbuildable, trying to extract some money from it. And I think EGLE should deny the permit application. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. All right, next up, and just so everybody knows where we're at, we have, looks like 3 more names on our list before we go to people who have their hands raised. So next up is Dean Capenga, followed by Linda Zaleski. So Dean, you can begin when you're ready.
Very good. Can you hear me first?
Yep, sounds good.
Good. Well, my name is Dean Capenga. I'm the commissioner that represents this area. I've also been on the lake board for 10+ years, and we've used Progressive as our specialist. We have Anthony Groves. He's a senior water resource specialist. Then his partner Paul sent EGLE a document which I'm very alarmed about. They looked at it and they're very concerned about 4 main points. I won't go through them because EGLE, I believe you have them. Jason and Kyle, thanks so much for your helpfulness in this project. And I won't go through those 4, but the conclusion is it appears that the potential and probable adverse impacts from this, they state, are very clear. And they're the professionals who have the background to really analyze this, and they feel that it's very detrimental to it. I'd bring another point that hasn't been really brought up. The commission is working on a water study work group with the ARPA funds. EGLE's familiar with this because they're working with different groups involved in this. I'm working with a Dr. Zachary Curtis with hydrosymbiotics. We're looking at the effects of wetland and the aquifer underneath us. And I approached Fenville City as far as they have a well about a mile from this wetland, and the effect as far as disturbing it, how that could affect the aquifer underneath it. So I just say that so that EGLE can just go, wait a second, the danger, the reason why we have a Michigan legislation passed this Protection Act 1994 PA 451, then you have the Federal Clean Water Act Section 404, is because the essence of wetlands has so many essential parts of it. And one of it is to protect the aquifer underneath it. It's a refurbishing area for the aquifer. You have a well that supplies all the different residences of Fenville City. And I know that they're concerned about it. They're looking into it. So I would just say to you, EGLE, thanks for all the way that you look into things. That's why you have this. So I just would have to look at what the experts are saying this is negative.
You have 1 more minute left, Dean.
And then I'd also have you just make sure you look at the wetland area, that there's a well that affects just many, many, many people. The whole city of Fenville, that's about a mile from this, and the aquifer is essential to it. So I obviously look at the experts saying this isn't good. I'm against it because of what the experts are telling me. And I'm also thinks it's dangerous to the Fenville City and all the residents around it. Thanks for letting me speak.
Yeah, thanks for your comment.
Thank you.
All right, so next up is Linda Zaleski, followed by Martha Cox. So Linda, you're unmuted. You can begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Linda Scott Zaleski, and I am a member of the Lucille Scott family, the White House with the big S on recreation. My family's been there for over 50 years, and we have also we're bringing up to the 4th generation there to the house. So we are very vested in seeing the integrity of Hutchins Lake, the peacefulness, as was mentioned before, and also it is imperative that we all realize it's our responsibility to be good stewards of our lake and of our wetlands, of our ecology, of our wildlife, as well as the children and the people enjoying the surface of the lake. So the congestion that these piers would create on that side of the lake, I think is a huge danger point. We know that a Saturday can be very busy, and I think that we're putting people in jeopardy in building such a thing. I've experienced some, traffic even on our side that makes me very cautious of more congestion on that side from those piers. So for those reasons, and for the things that have been mentioned before, I don't have a lot to add to it, but we agree with many of the comments of the Mazzonis and Dick Conrad, Mr. Barnes and others. So we would definitely recommend that you vote no to this proposal, as we think it's terribly detrimental to Hutchins Lake. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comment, Linda. All right, so next up is Martha Kotz, and then after Martha, we will go to people who have their hand raised. So is Martha?
Ryan, I do not have a Martha Cox in attendance.
All right, so now we're going to go to people. If you have a comment and you haven't already spoke, you can raise your hand. If you're on the phone, again, as a reminder, you can select #2, and we'll call on the last 4 digits of your phone number. So that's when you'll know that you're up next. So with that, we're going to start Kyle Ritter. So Kyle, we have you unmuted on our end. You can unmute yourself and make your statement.
Okay. Hi, my name is Kyle Ritter. I'm speaking on behalf of the Ritter family, the Davidson family, and the Murray family. We've currently are residents of Hutchins Lake and have had property here for over 50 years. This proposed marina is something that is going to be a major detriment to the lake, the wetlands, as well as the well that was mentioned earlier. The pier that they're proposing is too long, and there are no real long-term piers that are marinas on this lake. There are no lights that they had talked about, which would be very dangerous when navigating at night. I'm currently looking out my window right now at the lake, and there's a very strong eastward wind. If you were coming in on any sort of watercraft, whether it be motorized or unmotorized, you would be blown directly into that marina, causing damage to your own boat, your person, as well as the property that they're proposing to put there. The fingers for that pier do extend into the buoys that are placed to protect people as well as other boats as they come in and out of the boat launch, as well as to protect that wetland. The beach they're also proposing and the walkways will also cause further damage to that wetland. Like a comment that was made earlier, for these people that would have these properties up 59th Street, and just like other houses that do not have lake access, there's no reason why they cannot take their boats, drive them down to the boat launch and put them in and take them out. That seems very reasonable. EGLE does need to propose a wetland mitigation to see the damage that this is going to cause to the spawning fish, as well as the amphibians and turtles of the lake. The site is also a major location for migratory waterfowls, such as mergansers, mallards, among others, Canadian geese, as well as the mute swan.
You have 1 minute left, Kyle.
Okay, this area also is used by as feeding grounds for bald eagles, which were recently removed from the Endangered Species Act, as well as blue herons. This project seems to benefit some more than all, and something that can cause irreversible damage to this lake. It's something that's very dangerous to people that are going to be around that boat launch, as well as to the adjacent street, Elm Street, which is a private street, which would increase traffic through there while children are at play or people are walking their dogs. I'd like to say again that I'd like to thank the community for coming out in opposition to this. And I hope this is something that EGLE takes very seriously and sees that this not be passed. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comment, Kyle. All right, so next up is Joel Wormholtz, followed by Denise Ryan. So Joel, you're unmuted on our end. You can unmute yourself and begin when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. This is Joel Wormholtz. I am opposed to this development. In addition to all the reasons we've heard tonight, I guess I'm just reaffirming that the big thing is that this dock that's coming way out into the lake, by far more than any others, in a busy area, is for lake access to lots that are not on the lake, that otherwise would not be there. And the way I understand it, at least to this point, there's no guarantee that further development would not happen to increase and add more on there. So I'm opposed to the development of this. It seems that we're going to have interruptions and with the dock to the access to fishing. And when there is a reasonable alternative that these lots have access, just like anyone else does that does not live on the lake, to public access. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comment. All right, and just so everybody knows where we're at, we have approximately 23 more hands raised that we're going through. And next up is Denise Ryan, and then followed by a phone-in caller, 4177. So Denise, you can begin when you're ready.
Thanks. Again, my name is Denise Ryan. I'm a resident of Fenville, also an architect, and I've worked with countless developers and public agencies submitting applications for both site and building permits. The EGLE permit process clearly requires that the applicant show compliance with all state, local, and municipal laws and ordinances. EGLE's Part 301 is specific about protection of the lakes and streams, and Part 303 is clear about the protection of the wetlands. However, to date, EGLE has not required or requested a comprehensive impact statement. It seems unreasonable that EGLE can even consider this application without it. The planned marina will be located in an area of the lake that a 2009 DNR study noted to be one of 3 ecologically sensitive areas on Hutchins Lake. Since no impact study was completed by DeGroot, Lake residents asked Progressive A&E in May of this year to assess the impact of the marina on the lake. The assessment, conducted by biologists that have worked with Hutchins Lake for decades, details many negative effects the marina will have on the health of the lake and concludes that the potential and probable adverse impacts of the proposed marina to the public trust far outweigh any potential benefits. Review of any application that has a potential for negative impact to the public should be examined with the utmost care. The applicant must be required to submit a comprehensive plan that includes all related activities and shows their activities present no threat to the public interest. The DeGroot application is purposely not comprehensive. The marina permit cannot be properly evaluated without information about the primary purpose of the development, which is the construction of the new homes. The plan lacks details about size and type of housing.
2 minutes left, Denise, or 1 minute left, Denise. I'm sorry, you're at 2 minutes.
Thanks. The number of homes, the storm and sanitary water control measures, the maximum number of boats projected to use the docks, the sequencing of marina construction, the construction equipment access, traffic expectations for the boardwalks and the beach areas, traffic conflicts with the public launch, remedies for the potential pollution caused by the use of the marina, and the future maintenance of all the areas constructed in the wetlands and on the lake. Both homeowners and professionals have many reasons to believe that a marina of any kind in this location will cause irreparable damage to Hutchins Lake. Based on all the regulations that EGLE enforces, they should find this marina is not in the public interest and should deny this permit. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for your comment. All right, so next is phone-in caller 4177. Looks like you're unmuted on our end. You can begin when you're ready. And looks like you're muted on the phone.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, here we go. Yep, we can hear you. You can begin when you're ready.
Okay, this is Jody Carlson, and I thank you for all the hard work that you're doing on this project. My family's been on that lake for over 100 years, and a lot of memories and a lot of growing we've seen on the lake. First, I'd like to just say that what the DeGroot estate or family is promoting is that it's a park, and it's really a wetland. It's not a park there. The wetland is very important. I was a little girl when my father was planting those pikes in the lake with Bruce Grahams that spoke earlier, and we would see the frogs and the turtles and the ducks and the swans and everything that you can imagine there. And it is so important to keep that open with all the new waters that are coming into the lake. It is very shallow. I don't know the gentleman that used his Mastercraft to get back in there. I have a Carib 20-foot rubber dinghy with 150 on it. I couldn't get through that for all the tea in China. That is so shallow there. And once he puts that marina dock in there, that I would assume get lawsuits from the people because it's not going to be deep enough if he's not planning on dredging. I don't know if he is aware, anybody is aware of living on top of a marina. I do live on top of a marina in South Haven, Michigan, and I have 18 slips down below, and I will tell you that it is noisy. People get together and party. They get together and start their boats all together sometimes. If you have fishermen, they start up very early in the morning. So it creates a whole new venue than people are even thinking. The trash that's down there, right down below my house, there are bathrooms and everything. Will he have that accessible to those people? Because that's what he's going to need. Because on a 15-foot boat,
One minute left.
Heads. I would also just like to say that when you are putting your boat in and out of that area, I do it every year, and that wind is deadly. And when you drift, you might drift into that dock, that head dock, but more or less, they're going to just get stuck in the muck because it is so shallow there. So in closing, I just want to say thank you for considering all of our information that we've all given you and all the hard work.
Yeah, thanks for your comment. All right, next up is Jonathan Payne, followed by Bill Dobertine. So Jonathan, you're unmuted on our end.
Thank you. You know, following Jody as my cousin, we have houses on both sides of the lake, and for that great period of time. The concern that we have here is really alarming when it comes to the environmental impact study that has not yet been made, the dredging that has not been presented, but is obvious that it has to be there, what it's going to do, as Jody pointed out, to the wildlife. Something that really has not come up yet is along with the traffic that's going to increase, and along with the dangers that have been pointed out by having the dock have the boat launch with a dock adjacent to each other, is additional traffic on the lake. This lake has been a serene lake for fishing. Yes, it's increased, and especially on the west where there's more development. However, there's a very big difference between this marina and everybody else that's been a homeowner. And that is that all the homeowners didn't buy a home and a dock on a wetland. Okay, they pay their taxes. They've enjoyed it. As Jody said, we've enjoyed it 100 years. Not me, I'm not at all. But the point is that we need to preserve this, and it's not in the public's best interest, as pointed out. And so I really urge to EGLE to deny this request and let us move forward. One last thing, this has not been mentioned, and is that with that traffic, the decreased values in our homes is evident. You have a reputation on Hutchins Lake and Fenville and what that lake is and the beauty of it, and the non-congested, the fishermen, and that can go away as we start to jam too many things into areas that it does not belong. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comment, Jonathan. All right, next up is Bill Dobertine, followed by Roy Lemke.
Okay, can you hear me? Yep. Okay, this is Barb Dobertine, and I'm here with my husband, Bill Dobertine, and my parents, Skip and Helen Bale. All four of us would like to go on record as agreeing with the concerns that have already been stated and to oppose this proposed marina. We ask that you deny this permit. Mom and Dad have lived on the lake for 67 years and want to make sure we do all that we can to protect the health of the lake and preserve safe usage of the lake, not only for our times, but for future generations. First of all, we believe that there is no reason to approve the marina because there is a feasible alternative that's been mentioned. The public boat launch is directly accessible to the properties involved, therefore the marina is not needed. Secondly, the marina will have a negative impact on the environment because of its location in the protected cove, shallow waters, and wetlands. It will negatively affect usage of the lake by the public. It's going to be a navigational hazard. So therefore, it is not in the public interest. One thing that I question is the drawing that shows the clearance from the marina does not show any navigational path for that public access, which I believe is a very deceiving way to present the safe in quotes, navigation that is being proposed. Also on the EGLE website, there is a section for beach sand, filling of beach sand. And the last statement on your website states that sand cannot be filled in for wetland. So even though it's 15 feet proposed for that beach, that should not be allowed based on your own rules. Yeah, so I just want to thank you for listening to our concerns. And we hope that you work with Clyde Township and the Allegan County Commission to pause and relook at this whole development in new eyes, knowing that there's many more concerns that were there that were not presented by the proposal. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comment. All right, next up is Roy Lemke, followed by, this is Hogan Susan, but I'm thinking it might be Susan Hogan. Roy, you're next. You can go when you're ready.
Can you hear me, Ryan?
Yep.
All right, thanks for the opportunity to speak. So I just want to go on record in saying, one, as we've all heard, there's some deception around this access for these homes in regards to the regulations clearly state lake frontage required for a dock to be placed, and there is only 50 feet of usable space at that location that they could try to put a dock on the lake. That's just the reality of the situation. On the opposing side of the lake on Recreation Drive, there is an established development subdivision that is called the Recreational Development Subdivision. And that subdivision has what's called Outlet Lot B, which is a access point to the lake for the individuals of the Recreational Development Subdivision. And at that specific location, there is very specific rules regarding how that access can be used. And that lot is shared amongst those individuals that are part of that subdivision. And I have in front of me in the 48th Circuit Court of Allegan County, the document that clearly states the regulations around access. And there was a lawsuit filed in 1999, specifically in regards to the funneling rules and how it related to access through this lot for these individuals on the backside of Recreational Drive. I own lot 42 and 43, and I have title deeded access through that lot. And because of the regulations for dock length and the amount of lake frontage required at that time, I'm allowed to have a titled dock, but my dock length is restricted based on the percentage of titled frontage that I have associated to my two lots. So the Allegan County Circuit Court clearly states here that I can only have a 32-foot long dock, and they actually even restrict.
One more minute, Roy.
Beyond that, it clearly states here, owners or occupants of lots or residences located in the Recreational Development Subdivision shall not be entitled to utilize the dock except to the extent that such use is with the permission of the defendants, my lots, or their successors in interest, and is infrequent and limited to a short period of time and not overnight. So point being, they're in the same situation on the other side of the lake. They have homes that are not on waterfront. They have waterfront access that does not meet the requirements for even one dock. And it clearly right here from the Allegan County Circuit Court, this document clearly shows that the restrictions apply to dock length. So I would encourage EGLE to look into what's already been filed in the 48th Circuit Court in regards to lake frontage, dock length, and access of homes that are not directly on the water. Thank you.
All right. Yep. Thank you, Roy. All right. Next up is Susan Hogan, followed by Matt Smith. So we've got both. Susan, you can unmute yourself and begin your statement when you're ready. Or is it Hogan,
Can
Susan?
you hear me?
Susan? Yep, we can
Hello?
hear you.
Okay. Hi, I'm here with my husband, James. And I just want to say that my great-grandfather bought our property next to the public beach in 1942. We are very good stewards. We don't make any changes to the lake or anything near the lake that could possibly destroy it. I haven't heard anything about the property and the houses that are going to be built. Are they going to be rented out? Do the people who are going to rent those properties have access to those boat slips? And we're going to have people with no vested interest on the lake, utilizing the lake, not following the rules. We already have that with people who drop their boats for the day. On holiday weekends, we can't even take our boats out. The lake is so crowded. And now you want to add more people with no interest. We just want to say we are totally against this and hope that you reconsider. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comment. All right, next is Matt Smith, followed by Eric Bale. So Matt, you're unmuted on our end. You can unmute yourself. Hey there, Matt. You should see a microphone icon in the lower part of your screen. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I clicked it once, but apparently again clicked. So yeah, Mary Beth and I are homeowners on the lake. I had just a couple of brief comments. It seems to me under your rules, under 303, that the threshold issue for issuing a permit that would impair the wetlands is whether or not the activity would be in the public interest. And what I have seen is with what's been filed with EGLE, there is nothing to indicate that there is any public interest. I'd also like to go back that in earlier in 21, when there was a proposal with the Clyde County Planning Commission, Dave DeGroot stated that the goal for the property was to promote public enjoyment of the area and that he was donating half the property to the Southwest Michigan Land Conservancy based in Kalamazoo. So there was at least a realization that there should be some public benefit, but the Southwest Michigan Land Conservancy declined to accept that donation. And since that point in time, and in any of the EGLE filings, there is nothing to indicate that there has been any attempt to create a public benefit for what is right now a private and commercial development to provide access to a housing development that's being built. Nor has the applicant indicated that shown that no feasible and prudent alternatives exist, since as a number of people have mentioned, this is being built directly alongside a very active boat launch which people could use to get their boats in the water. So those are my two summary comments. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight and appreciate you guys reviewing all of our comments. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment, Matt. All right, next up is, and just so you know where we're at, we have about 14 hands raised right now. And next up is Eric Bale, followed by Diane Hoekstra. So Eric, it looks like you can start when you're ready.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, thank you for allowing me to speak on this. So I'd like to just kind of piggyback on what Mr. Roy Lemke was talking about in regards to the anti-funneling regulations provided by Clyde Township. Section 8.8 specifically of the Uniform Lakefront Code says that any multiple residential development that shares a common lakefront area or frontage may not allow lake use or access to more than one single family home, dwelling unit, cottage, condominium, or sub-condominium unit or apartment unit for each 100 feet of lake frontage in such a common lakefront area as measured by the ordinary high water level. No single family home, dwelling unit, cottage, condominium unit, multiple unit residential development shall have more than one dock.
Can you get a little closer to your microphone, Eric? We can hear you, but it's very faint. Can you get a little closer?
Is that a little better?
Oh, perfect.
Is that better? Okay. Back up just a sec. So the anti-funneling regulations of Clyde Township clearly state that any multi-unit residential development that shares a common lakefront area or frontage may not allow lake use or access to more than one single family home, cottage, condo, condominium unit, or apartment for each 100 feet of lakefront in such common lakefront area. It appears that this application is in direct disagreement with the ordinance is set forth by Clyde Township, and then the lack of transparency with Clyde Township on letting the public know of these plans is also very apparent. I don't know how you can have a whole group of houses using one dock. It just, and only 50 feet of allowable lake frontage. I mean, really, you can't even have one dock there, is apparent by the law. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for your comment. All right, next up is Diane Hoekstra, followed by Jen Wrigley. Diane, you can begin when you're ready.
Hi, I'm gonna let my husband speak, Pete Hoekstra, for me.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hi, this is Pete Hoekstra. You know, we're relatively new to Hutchins Lake, and when we heard about the development, as I'm listening to a lot of the good comments this evening, it's like, how did we get here? And the basic premise seems to be that the developer believes that he has 900 to 1,000 feet of buildable lakefront property, which means that I could have put in 9 docks, or I can put in this one long one. But my wife and I walk along there and look into this land quite often, and there's no way, as a number of people have stated tonight, that they could have 9 normal buildable lakefront lots on this property. So actually what the developer is trying to do is he's trying to use his 50 feet that might be dry land and not wetlands, and create access for a bunch of lots that don't have access to the lake. If there were 9 buildable lots, he should have developed it in that format. This is all a workaround. And the reason that he's done it piecemeal is that if he'd unveiled this whole project at the beginning, I don't think he would have been successful at the township or the county or even at EGLE in getting the permits. First he asked for a driveway, a road. Then now it's beach development. Now it's 160-foot dock. It's a 6-foot wide lot. As far as I've been told, no one else on the lake is allowed to have a 6-foot wide dock. If they build that 160-foot dock, it's basically going to close that bay off to anybody else's use. I'm also concerned in that, that it continues to be a project creep because, the attorney said no more development, quote unquote, at this point. Well, that's kind of scary.
1 minute left.
Okay. What about, do you allow for jet ski lifts to be put in independent of the dock? What about paddle boards, kayaks, canoes laying on the shoreline, going into and across the wetlands? This is going to turn into one of the least developed parcels of land along the lake into perhaps the most developed parcel. This is the beginning and not the end of this project. And this project clearly is only for the benefit of the developer, and clearly not for the people that live on Hutchins Lake. I think the premise of this whole thing of saying, hey, I've got 1,000 feet of buildable property is way wrong, and it's a bad assumption for the discussion even to begin. If he had that, he could have developed this into 9 normal buildable lots. He doesn't. He's trying to develop
3 minutes.
land.
It'd be great if you could wrap up your comment.
Yep. I mean, he's developing this property. He's developing this proposal for property that is not affiliated or associated with the lake. Hey, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for the comments. All right, next up is Jen Wrigley, followed by Jason Roberts. So Jen, you're unmuted on our end. You should see a microphone icon.
Can you hear me, Ryan?
Yep, we can hear you.
Hi, I'm Jen Wrigley, and I'm representing my whole family. We live on Hutchins Lake and have for 15 years or more. So the first step in any public hearing should provide for the ability for interested parties such as ourselves and everyone else that is on the phone tonight to ask questions about the project, because you're asking us to comment for or against. And we literally weren't able to even get our questions answered. So I'm going to urge EGLE to hold, if you're going to continue to consider this after tonight, please hold a special session so we can ask our questions to understand what's being done to our lakefront. If EGLE is indeed working on behalf of the public interest, what you've heard from us tonight, I would ask that you, Jason, specifically, based on your involvement, that you visit the lake if you haven't, so you really see what this protective cove looks like. It's a very special place, and it is where fishermen and kayaks like to go because it is so special. Also, I'm not the only one to mention this, but there have been deceptive plans laid out and presented to you in terms of whether or not dredging is needed, in terms of some of the dimensions, in terms of what's in that area. I really would like to have you see it so you understand facts versus what's been made up. We need, if you are again going to consider this after tonight, we all need very specific details on the impact for the wetlands, not only what's been talked about for the lake, but for the boardwalk. Believe me, you haven't seen it, but that boardwalk is got to be, I mean, it's multiple hundreds of feet where you would be putting a boardwalk in through the wetlands. No one's really talked about that tonight in terms of the impact there. It's unclear and questionable how approval was given for the driveway that has been mentioned. And while that might not be EGLE's responsibility, it is your responsibility to understand the project in its entirety and how it affects the wetlands. So I urge you to go back to whatever was done.
1 minute left, Jen.
Regarding your responsibility to protect wildlife, you must know that there are pileated woodpeckers that live and build nests in that area. I purposely and intentionally showed the owners the woodpeckers and their nest. Since that time, the whole area has been clear cutted and their nests are gone. I can only hope they're still alive, but they've shown that they cannot be stewards of the wildlife, and therefore, EGLE, you must do your job to protect them. We also want to understand how the owners plan to clean the water around this potential pier as people fill their gas tanks. That oil and gas is just going to create a slick that moves down the lake and ruin people's lakefront parcels. Is there a trash plan? Who's going to monitor adherence to boating regulations?
Your time's up, Jen, so it'd be great if you could wrap up.
Last of all, we've been told for the past 15 or 20 years that that whole area is unbuildable because it is wetlands. What has suddenly changed to make it a buildable area? Thank you.
No, thanks for your comment. All right, next up, and we have about 10 people left who have hands raised, just so you know where we're at if you're in there. Jason Roberts is next, followed by Dan Goshorn. So Jason, you can begin when you're ready.
Yep. Hi, Ryan. You able to hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Great. So yes, this is Jason Roberts, and I'm representing my wife and I, Linda Roberts. We're also homeowners on the lake. We do oppose this marina for many of the reasons stated already. First, there's really no public benefit to this marina. For a few people, yes, but not the public. I want to make a statement on precedents. First, I believe it's disingenuous for the DeGroote Council to make the statement in the opening comments that the homes on the lake typically have 4 docks. Simply not the case. We have 1, and I would also add that 3 of our 4 most adjacent neighbors also simply have 1. Second, it was agreed by council that none of the homes the docks will support will be on the lake. This leads to my question/statement. Imagine if I chose to replace my single dock and build a new 166-foot dock and rent or sell dock space to others not located on the lake. Would that be supported? Or if other lake residents decided to do the same, would it be okay? This is a relatively small lake. Building marinas to support non-lakefront residents is a bad precedent that will lead to more traffic, more safety issues, and as discussed a lot on this call, more environmental issues. I urge you to vote no to this request. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment, Jason. All right, next up is Dan Goshorn, followed by Larry Opalewski. Dan, you can begin when you're ready.
Hi, I appreciate this hearing, and I know it's been a long night, so I'll keep my comments brief. I'd just like to urge EGLE to be sure that they examine the record carefully and the submissions by the applicant carefully to make sure they are in compliance with local law and ordinances as required by your regulations. Many have spoken in particular about the anti-funneling ordinances in Clyde Township. I think it's very important that aspect of this application is considered carefully. I would also like to voice my opinion in agreement with what many others have said about the feasible alternative of using the public boat launch. The dock that is, the marina that is proposed would be the largest structure on the lake by a wide margin, and is situated in the cove in such a way that it would restrict the access and usage of a large portion of the lake by kayakers, fishermen, and the like. The applicant, what is going unstated here is the applicant is proposing marina this large because it's the area is so shallow, it's the only way they could have access to usable water. The applicant says this, they're doing a kindness by not building 9 docks across the front of the property when that's not feasible based on the wetland and the shallowness of the lake at that point. It's just simply they're proposing this massive structure because it's the only way it can be done. What the applicant should do is what everyone else who lives off the lake and wants to access the lake does, and that's use the public boat launch. That is a feasible alternative, and that should be the ruling of the EGLE on this matter. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for your comment. All right, next up, Larry Opalewski, followed by Lauren Barnes or Lauren Barnes' account. Larry, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Thanks, Ryan, and good evening to everybody. Again, my name is Larry Opalewski. I'm with the law firm of Dalton and Tomich, and I do represent a number of residents on the lake who are opposed to this marina permit. There's been a lot of good comments tonight, and I'm just going to try to bring it all home and apply it to the legal requirements for these permits. As you guys know, Part 301 and Part 303 of the Natural Resources and Environmental Protections Act are the ones that are at play here. Under Part 301, a permit cannot issue unless the project does not adversely affect public trust or riparian rights. And a finding of an adverse effect on either of those 2 items mandates denial. As we've heard tonight, this will adversely affect the public trust. There's negative environmental impacts. The progressive A&E report was particularly alarming in this regard. It's made by experts who have produced findings and scholarly articles which really incontrovertibly state that there will be an environmental impact, a negative one, from this marina. And there's also going to be an impact on boating and fishing, particularly in the cove. As it's been noted several times by residents around the lake, this will almost completely cut off that cove from fishing, from kayaking, and it will certainly impact boating in that everybody uses this area as the public boat launch. It's already a very high traffic area. And if really you can take a few things away from this, it's the size and location that are huge factors here. This is of a size that dwarfs everything else on the lake, and it's of a location that's already a very high traffic location, and it's going to create safety issues. That's also going to adversely affect riparian rights. Particularly the riparians that are adjacent to the proposed location are going to be the most impacted. Again, that's going to increase boat traffic and decrease maneuverability in an area that's already suffering from that. And this is going to—
1 minute left, Larry.
Thanks, Ryan. And this is going to increase the potential for accidents. And also the marina is simply out of character for this lake. I know the EGLE guys do a good job to do site visits, and you'll know that there's nothing else on the lake like this. Administrative Rule 4 prohibits issuance of a permit if there's a feasible and prudent alternative, such as the public boat launch. And then Part 303 for a wetlands permit, obviously it's not in the public interest. And I'm also going to focus on the otherwise lawful requirement. I really appreciated Mr. DeGroot's council's presentation. It was very well done, but I do take issue with the idea that they have 1,000 feet of usable space. That's simply not the case here for anti-funneling purposes. They're trying to funnel 9 different homes into this one small area, and that's simply not allowable under the township ordinances, which would therefore make
You're
this.
at three minutes, Larry, so please wrap it up.
Thanks, Ryan. That's all I have. I'll just refer to my written comments, and I appreciate your time.
Yep, thanks for your comments. All right, Lauren Barnes, followed by Kevin O'Connor. And it sounds like, is someone else on Lauren's account?
Yeah, Karen Barnes, here you go.
Okay, I got you.
All right, thank you. I'm starting from the beginning. On April 20, 2021, Clyde Township Planning Commission held a public hearing for the DeGroot Family Trust wetland permit. Part of that request are for boardwalks for public use, half of the property to the Nature Conservatory, a trail system throughout the undeveloped portion to be utilized by both future homeowners and the proposed buildable lots as well as the public. Boardwalks have been designed to minimize impacts to the existing wetlands. They say minimize, but they don't tell us what minimize means. First request has been denied as far as the conservatory goes. The part about a boardwalk for the public has been changed, and the DeGroot's housing residence being a private area only. And what does minimize mean? No harm should be done to the wetlands. How do they know what the damage will be? DeGroot's plans keep changing, and the changes for their own welfare. The houses to be built should use the boat launch that already exists, just like all of the rest of the lake users. Several concerned people were at that meeting stating their oppositions. The board, really not knowing how to vote, requested information from Township Service Representative Tasha Smalley. She advised them that EGLE would make that decision, so it really didn't matter how they voted. There were only 4 members present that evening. 3 voted for the DeGroots to continue, and 1 vote was a no. Only 4 members present. I feel the board would have denied the permit if Tasha had not actually told them what to do, advised them what to do. They had not received
1 minute left, Karen.
Thank you. The board had not received any formal documentations from the entire project, nor did they even check their own ordinances about wetlands. Since this meeting, board members have resigned and a new board has been seated. Swans, herrings, ducks, geese, and all other wildlife nest and lay their eggs on these wetlands. Right now, it is a protected area for them, as well as kingfishers, bats, bald eagles, all kinds of turtles and fish that spawn there. Please don't allow this permit to damage and possibly destroy this ecosystem. Please consider DeGroots really don't need a private marina and a footpath for their use only. They can use the existing launch just like all of the other people do. We must maintain the welfare of the lake itself and what it means to future generations.
And
right now, it's a
time's up. Your time is up,
safe
Karen.
way.
Can you please wrap it up?
Yes. I just wanted to thank you, and we need to save the wetlands.
Thanks for your comment. All right, next up is Kevin O'Connor, followed by Steve Gustus. So Kevin, you can go unmute your microphone and start when you're ready. You should see a microphone icon that you can click to unmute your microphone in the toolbar.
Okay, are we
There you
set?
are. Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, this is Kevin and Jill, and we have been associated with the lake 21 years ourselves, and then our parents lived here for 15 years before that. So we too love this lake. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Combs and EGLE for the opportunity to hear our concerns about this proposal and its effects on Hutchins Lake. We are concerned citizens and riparians on Hutchins Lake. I am an educator and we are both nature enthusiasts. For all these reasons, we appreciate our concerns being heard. We are concerned about our beautiful wetland area being filled and the shoreline and lake bottoms being forever changed to create private boardwalks, a private beach, a private park, and even a private marina, all for up to 9 landowners of this new development, whose driveways will be within a convenient quarter to half mile of the public launch site. The proposed development would negatively impact this positive, quiet, shallow, and undeveloped area that recharges the lake and is located just west of the public launch site. The Michigan DNR wrote about our lake in a fisheries resource report authored by biologist Craig Smith in 2009. Specifically referenced in this peer-reviewed report is the exact area being discussed tonight. The near shore area, I quote, along the north side of the lake is undeveloped and provides good habitat for aquatic insects, fish, waterfowl, and protection of these areas from aquatic weed treatment, aquatic weed harvesting, and dredging and filling are critical to the survival of aquatic organisms that use these habitats. Truly, the lake has but a few undeveloped areas left.
One minute left.
Thank you.
That buffer the lake from pollutants and storm runoff. This is one area that not only does that, but it's rich and diverse in wildlife, aquatic fish, and insect life. We haven't talked about the aquatic insects that are at the bottom of the food chain, and they're so plentiful right in that area, which feed all the fish nurseries. To imagine this treasure disturbed and changed forever would be a mistake impacting our aquatic insects, our fishery, and wildlife. To imagine a long dock through the pristine ecosystem and 8 to 10 motorized boats with prop thrusts, damaging the water quality and the very life of aquatic organisms will have effects.
Time is up, Kevin and Jill. Can you please wrap it up?
Yep, she's
Yes.
wrapping it up.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is disturbing to us because of the impact it will have on the environment, especially when the DNR has deemed it a critical and sensitive area worthy of protection. And I thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for those comments. All right, next up is Steve Augustus, and after that, Joseph Bianco. Steve, you can begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be able to give comment tonight. So thank you to EGLE for making this opportunity available. I do want to reiterate, and I apologize, I don't remember the person's name who spoke about this, but if EGLE will offer another opportunity, special meeting to at least ask questions. The question and answer part of this meeting was very short, and I know a lot of people have questions that still remain about the plan. One or two things I just want to make a point about. One, I would definitely reiterate the things that Mr. Barnes spoke about early on about the buoy placement and the right of way from the from the boat launch outward. Very concerned about it being very close. You've heard enough about heavy traffic. I think we all probably have a good idea of how heavy the traffic can be there, especially on the weekends, of course, in that area. But really, and then the wind and weather conditions on certain days are really are going to push boats into the boats that are parked in those piers. The other real concern, and I hadn't heard it except from the very last commenter, Mrs. O'Connor, a little bit about the prop wash. My concerns are definitely for the prop wash coming from those piers and really the movement of sediment underneath there. I have feeling that it's just going to really push a lot of that sediment and sand that's there where the piers are going to be proposed to be put. It's going to push all that sediment right into the public way of the boat launch, thereby, making the boat launch area a lot shallower than it already is. Sometimes you get to August and it's already hard to get your boat in and out of there. So I just want to make that point. I hadn't heard that point had been made yet about the movement of sediment by 9 or more additional boats being there. And it really is just a very shallow area. So I hope that the folks from EGLE are able to get out there, get on the water, and look closely at this area, in particular the depths of this area where the pier is being proposed. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks for your comment. All right, next up is Joseph Bianco, followed by Dennis Wilt is after Joseph. So you can begin when you're ready.
Hi, and thank you for the opportunity to make a comment. My family has owned property and used the public ramp, boat ramp on Hutchins Lake for more than 60 years, and it has been the setting for our most cherished memories connecting with our family and nature. I'm representing myself and my wife, Jamie Bianco. I'd like to point out once again that the proposed marina will intersect with the ingress and egress path from the boat ramp. And in particular, I want to focus on the environmental impact of that, because the boat traffic to and from the ramp will need to be rerouted, which will require dredging because the water is extremely shallow in that area. Dredging is not accounted for in the current proposal, and it will be destructive to the Hutchins Lake ecosystem. And in addition, you've heard that from many people that will create dangerous conditions for the people on Elm and Cedar Streets, who would be directly adjacent to the only alternative path. This would create unsafe conditions for all who use the ramp, the property owners adjacent to the ramp, and the people who will be using the proposed marina. I urge EGLE to do further analysis to fully assess the effects to the ingress and egress and to and from the boat ramp, and the dredging requirements that would arise from that. I recommend that EGLE observe the boat traffic at the ramp on a busy weekend such as Memorial Day to see firsthand how limited the current navigable path is and how it will be obstructed by the proposed marina and thus require dredging. I will also provide diagrams that overlay the survey from the DeGroot proposal upon satellite imagery that will approximate the obstruction. I also urge you to please consider the cumulative impact of all of the DeGroot projects, not just the marina, and please deny this application.
Thank you for your comment. All right, next up is Dennis Wilt, followed by Kenneth Nelson. So Dennis, you can begin when you're ready.
Okay, my comments really supplement the last two speakers. The impact of the boat traffic going into the marina and out of the marina is going to be more substantial than you can imagine. We live directly south of the project in the southeast corner of the lake. I kayak often up to the wetland area because it's beautiful. We've seen bald eagles, we've seen the swans, and we can kayak into that area now, this time of year. But when the water stops going over the spillway, you can't even kayak in that area. The entire eastern part of the lake is shallow. That's the shallowest. The boats that will be there, it doesn't matter what kind of boats they are not going to be able to get in and out without impacting the bottom of the lake. It's a foot deep, if it's that deep, in the area that they're going to have to traverse. The second comment that I want to make is you've heard a number of speakers and you have information on the impact on fish and wildlife of this development. It's substantial, and it impacts not just the people who live on the lake. There's a large community of day users, primarily fishermen. We see them every day at the lake, who use the boat ramp and fish the lake. This will impact the fishing on that lake long-term. It is a great fishing lake, not only for owners, but for the public. And it's in part because we have a no wake requirement until 11 a.m. It's quiet. It's a fishing lake.
Yep,
And
1 minute left on us.
when you consider the public trust, public interest in looking at this application, you need to take into account the people who use the lake on a daily basis, most of whom I would submit don't even know about this project because they don't live near the lake. They come to fish the lake daily. You have a lot of reasons to deny this. I can't believe it'll even be a close issue for you. This is a ridiculous proposal to adversely impact a wonderful gem for Southwest Michigan. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the comments. All right, next up is Kenneth Nelson, and then followed by, after Kenneth will be Eileen Bale Henry. And just so everyone knows, we have 5 hands raised currently.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Hey, thank you. I actually, most of the neighbors here articulated it well, and I actually was just gonna applaud and send my comments in, but a comment was made earlier about the wetlands importance to the aquifer. So as a physician, somebody interested in population health, I want to speak for the people who don't use the lake, who don't fish, who don't love it the way we do. And that's some of the people that live in Fenville. And if there's any likelihood that damage to these wetlands can affect the aquifer supplying the town of Fenville, we've got to stop it. And not only that, if this was hidden in some due diligence or not seen, any approval so far of walkways and boardwalks should be pulled until that full assessment is done. You've heard why it's important to us that love the lake, but it is important to other people for health reasons. And now you got a different issue. And I beg you to please look at this again, make these projects, spend the money to prove that it's not going to affect the aquifer and not affect the rest of us in the way it's been so well articulated. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate the comment. All right, next is Eileen Bale Henry, followed by Cynthia Yonkers. So Eileen, you can unmute yourself and begin when you're ready.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, sounds good.
All right. I want to thank everybody for the great details you have given in this hearing. I'm Bale Girl 3 from Skip and Helen Bale. My parents have been on the lake, as Barb said, for 67 years, but they didn't mention that they bought the my mother's grandmother's land. So we've probably been on the lake for 150 plus years. And I want to talk about joy tonight because so many have given you facts that you can stand and make this decision and no. But I feel like this is going to rob everybody's joy. I feel like it's a stab in everyone's heart, and the joy of seeing swans, and the joy of seeing blue herrings, and the joy of catching the Hutchins Lake pike. Oh my God, there's nothing better than that, and it's the best fish ever to eat. And then also the sadness of when there's going to be an accident happen if this dock gets put in, the sadness of if we have a death on the lake because of it, and the sadness of having that all taken away from us if this dock has been approved. Once it's gone, once wildlife is gone, once the cleanliness of the lake has been deteriorated, it's gone. I mean, it may never be able to recoup. And then I also want to talk about boats, the size of boats, the size of engines. I work for Marina in Wisconsin, and the trend is big boats, big engines. And these are going to be wealthy people, but building new homes, and they're going to want big boats and big engines. And that's
You have 1 minute left, Eileen.
dangerous for the lake. And it's just going to take it's just not going to be the same. We want to maintain the gentleness and peacefulness and the health and the balance of fishermen and the balance of wildlife. There's like a mile away from Hutchins Lake is the Todd Farm, where 20,000 Canadian geese settle and depend, and they will land on the lake and they depend on the lake. And the eagles that are coming back, and all that matters. And then the people that are walk the lake and enjoy the lake, and it's not gonna be the same. We're gonna look at the lake, it's gonna rob us of that joy, rob us of the delight and the peace that comes that the lake has given of our souls.
And your time is up, Eileen. Can
All
you
right, please
wrap up?
vote no, please, I beg of you.
All right, thanks for the comments. All right, next up, Cynthia Yonkers, followed by, and then after Cynthia will be Pete and Carol Post. Cynthia, you can begin when you're ready. Are you there, Cynthia? Sounds like you're unmuted, but we can't hear anything. Are you there? All right, we're able to unmute yourself. All right, we can try to come back to Cynthia. All right, let's move on to Pete and Carol. All right, you can begin when you're ready, Pete and Carol.
Thank you very much. This is Pete Post, and myself and my wife Carol have been blessed every day that we've been able to retire on a home with access to Hutchins Lake. I'm very thankful to EGLE for taking the time to listen to the concerns expressed by the residents that have been living on this marvelous lake. I don't think that Mr. DeGroat would intentionally do harmful things to the lake. I know he's got a history of Hutchins Lake, but we're relying on you to judge whether or not his proposals are reasonable and will not negatively affect the ecology and the manageability of Hutchins Lake. I only ask that you make careful decisions to approve or disapprove these proposals or even offer alternative suggestions. My main fear is that negative effects to the ecology of the lake will not lend themselves to an easy fix. I also appreciate the input I've gotten from people from Riparian Magazine who have kind of coached some of us on the questions that we should ask in this. Over and over again in the presentation, we heard the word typical, typical, typical. What's not typical is this huge dock sitting right in the middle of the lake. Nobody has anything like that. And what would be typical is for the people of these new homes to use the boat launch just like everybody else. It's been a long night. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your comments. All right, we're gonna try Cynthia one more time. Cynthia, are you able to unmute yourself? Just wondering if you got able to get your audio situation fixed. Are you there? Yeah, we can't hear you, Cynthia. We'll provide the information for sending written comments again here shortly after we're done with this portion. So let's move on to Nicholas Wallace, and then after Nicholas will be a phone-in caller 2483.
Hi, can you hear me? This is Nicholas Wallace.
Yep, we can hear you.
Hi, my wife Jessica and I live on Hutchins Lake. We just want to be on the record tonight as being strongly opposed to this proposal. We've posted some public comments. Just quickly on the wetlands, far more qualified people have spoken than us, but I will say that the threshold for any action should be extremely high because once the damage is done, it will be irreparable. Just the construction alone of the boardwalk could cause irreparable damage. And then you have project scope and creep from there. The anti-funneling provision should be looked at extremely closely. Again, far more qualified people have more eloquently described it than I can here, but I want to be on the record as stating that. And then just personally, in terms of navigational, we have a boat on the lake and we use the boat ramp. And even on the slightly windiest days, it can be very tricky to navigate that boat ramp. A prior speaker spoke about the buoys. Those are not mentioned in the plan. They're very important. And I could envision a scenario where you have queuing along the boat ramp, either people that are crashing into the DeGroot dock, running aground in the 1 foot deep waters, or on the other side, pushing into the Elm Street docks and violating those people's riparian rights, or even worse, doing damage. So for all those reasons, we're strongly opposed to the project. And we just want to thank EGLE for spending time late into the evening here for hearing all of our concerns. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comments, Nicholas. All right, next, just before we go to the next caller, just a reminder to those on the phone, you can select #2 to raise your hand in Zoom, and then we'll call on you. So this is Nick. This is caller 2483, last 4 digits. You can begin. Looks like you're unmuted.
This is Jim Baird, and I've been listening since 6 o'clock, and everything I've heard has been fantastic. I have a couple of comments. First one is with the DeGroot's presentation, the reason he's saying one dock is because that's all that there could be for that property. The last thing I have to say, and fairly quickly, is Judge Judy, the TV judge, she wrote a book, and the book was titled, "Don't Piss on Me and Tell Me It's Raining." And that was what their presentation was. I'm done.
All right, thanks for your comment. All right, next up is Brett Grams, followed by Kevin Bogner. So Brett, you can start when you're ready. It looks like you're unmuted on our end. You just have to unmute yourself. There, you should see a microphone icon at the bottom of the screen, all the way to the left.
There you are. All right. My concern is in all these plans that have been done in there was no timeline, if you pass this, on the installation of this dock and what kind of equipment are going to have to be in there, stirring up the lake, blocking the boat launch, and then with this seasonal dock, how that's going to be taken in and taken out if it's seasonal. Unfortunately, dealing with DeGroots before, they don't really respect the rules of the lake. This is nothing personal. I'm just bringing this up because we've seen it before. Yep, my concern is if you pass this, what the detriment it's going to do to the lake itself with the equipment just to put this dock in. That's all I've got.
All right, yeah, thank you for your comments. All right, next up, Kevin Bogner, and then after Kevin will be Dominic Greer. Kevin, you can begin when you're ready.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to say thank you to all my fellow residents here on Hutchins Lake. I think you did a wonderful job. We are approaching 2.5 hours of comments that represent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of lives spent on this lake. And we've heard legal arguments, we've heard emotional arguments, we've heard environmental arguments, why this is a bad idea. Overwhelmingly, everybody on this phone call for the last 2.5 hours is opposing this situation because it benefits nobody but one person. I have no issue with somebody looking to develop, looking to make money. We all need to afford the lives that we choose to lead. I have a problem with somebody being deceptive in how they approach the permit process in order to ruin this for everyone else but themselves. We've talked about and heard the risk of rentals. We've heard the risk of folks that don't understand the boating rules. We've heard the risk of what it's going to do to the wildlife around us. The people who invested in this lake, invested in their families, invested in the beauty that we all get to enjoy. And I refuse to let it be ruined by one person's greed, because that's what this is about. If it was really about access to the lake, I think Scott mentioned earlier, walk down the road and launch your boat. If it was really about making sure that you provide it to the public and donate some land, then the proposed donation would have been accepted. It's about getting the most for the land that will be developed up the road to the detriment of everybody else. So thank you to everybody who has voiced their opposition to this. I urge EGLE to vote against this. And I warn that this won't be the end of it. This is going to be a long, long process, Mr. DeGroot. And there's hundreds of voices on this call today that are going to make it long for you. That I can promise. I hope you enjoy your new view. The rest of us will be watching. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment. All right, next up, Dominic Greer. All right, looks like you're unmuted on our end, Dominic. You're able to unmute yourself and start when you're ready.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, so my name is Dominic Greer, and I walked down to my neighbor Cynthia's house. So here she is.
Okay.
Hi, I couldn't handle the technology. I'm Cynthia Yonkers, Cindy Yonkers, Mick Yonkers. We're 46 years residents on Hutchins Lake. 10 years I did spend with the Hutchins Lake Improvement Association, and 20 years as a Ganges Township clerk. I know with both organizations, the big thing was to preserve the health, safety, and welfare of the body that you're representing, which whether it's Township, Lake Association, whatever it may be. I have several points to bring up. One was, I understand in the documentation that the pier length is 15 feet. Most people have pontoons. They're 20 to 28 feet long. So yes, your pier will give them access, but the motor is going to be way closer to the boat launch and the the turbulence from the props, everything else. Another question I have, nobody's really addressed, Mr. Hoekstra, I think, mentioned it a little bit, was shore stations. Are there any provisions to prevent them? Jet ski lifts, boat lifts, other places around the lake, they are not near shore, they are out so that people can access them because the water is shallow. We all know the water is shallow around that entire wetland area, and there's no way. But I want to see if this thing goes through that none of that's going to be allowed. I have another question. We're talking about 9 units. Does that take up all of the property, or is there a future expansion planned? I understand Clyde Township, they're just like Ganges Township. You have to get approval before you can do any of this stuff. So they may not have even seen a site plan yet or gone through any of their approval processes because you need the permit first. Well, I want to know if this is stage 1 or is there more coming down the road? I'm also very concerned that you're setting a precedent. The entire west end of the lake a lot of it is wetland. Yes, we all.
1 minute left, Cynthia.
Okay, thank you. We all love the Crane property and know it will probably stay in families for years, but it's not all Crane property. This opens the doors to a lot of other developments through wetlands by funneling. You say 9 properties, you have 1,000 feet of frontage. Yeah, that might get through the funneling rules. You know, there's 100 feet for home or 50 feet, but it's a big difference. I'm also concerned that you hold on this until you really see activity on the lake, EGLE, and see, maybe hold till Memorial Day, 4th of July, see how much activity is already on the lake, because you're talking 9 boat slips. Well, I have my own property on the water. I know 1 boat slip, nobody has 1 boat. There's jet ski, there's everything else. So I'm really
Time's up, Cynthia. It'd be great if you could wrap up your comments.
Okay, I'm worried about shore stations off the property. I'm worried about the environment. It is a nesting area and an amphibian and spawning area. So please turn down this application. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comments. So right at this point, I don't have any other hands raised. If somebody hasn't made a comment yet, you're welcome to raise your hand in Zoom, or if you're on the phone, to select #2. Again, if you haven't made a comment yet. And right now I'm not seeing Any other hands raised? We'll get another second to see if there's anybody out there who hasn't made a comment yet and would like to, either on the call or watching via Zoom. Not seeing anybody, so Jason, I'd like to invite you to read the closing statement and close out the hearing.
All right, thanks, Ryan. Thank you for your comments and cooperation. We appreciate your interest in the proposed project and that you took the time to be here tonight. As indicated at the beginning of the hearing, you may submit additional written comments until May 19th, 2022. Following the close of the public comment period, we will consider all comments received and make a decision on the proposed project. Just to remind those that may still want to submit a comment, comments can be submitted via MyWaters, email, or US mail. The hearing is now closed. Thank you again.
All right, yeah, thanks again, Jason. As Jason mentioned, and I've got the slide up that has how to make a comment. For those on the phone, it's by mail. EGLE Water Resources Division, Kalamazoo District Office, 7953 Adobe Road, Kalamazoo, Michigan, 49009, or through MyWaters, submission number HPC-JEM9-EXPBJ. Comment period will be open for 10 days, which is March 19th. If there are additional questions for Jason or Kyle, you can contact Jason. I have his contact information up here. I know we didn't get to a lot of them. His phone number is 269-568-2693, or he can be reached at combsj8@michigan.gov. And so that's combsj8@michigan.gov. All right, with that, thank you all for participating in this process tonight. Lots of comments and questions. We'll be sharing a recording of the webinar or of the public hearing on our YouTube channel, and it should be up in a couple days here. So with that, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening, and yeah, thanks for participating in this process.